This episode of Reality Quest is brought to you by
George Clooney's own personal brand of Casamigos tequila.
Anyways,
welcome back to episode 3 of Reality Quest.
Yeah, we're not sponsored by George Clooney.
I wish.
But George Clooney, if you're listening, we'll take it. But we were basically sponsored by Matt Chacon.
He totally brought a bottle of Casamigos tequila to the episode.
That's right.
Recording. So.
Yeah. And it was awesome. Thanks, Matt. He was like, I heard we're partying, and we were like, hell yeah. Actually, I think it was just for him, and we were like, sure, we'll have some. But yeah, so, okay, this episode is Matt Chacon. And we shared some tequila, which was freaking amazing. Because of that, there are a lot of tangents. No, I don't think it was because of the tequila.
No, we just it was a great conversation with Matt.
Right, a great conversation. Heads up, there are a lot of tangents and giggles. We're cutting like a lot of the beginning of the conversation, which honestly, it's just like we didn't feel right forcing everyone to listen to 3 hours of us.
Yeah. And I feel like the recording was actually closer to 4, but we just spent a lot of time going through his background.
Yeah.
Leading up to more of the VR type stuff.
Right. So, okay, let's backtrack. Who is Matt if you don't know him? So he's an awesome dude and human, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
But he is the CEO of Doghead Simulations.
Yes,
what's Doghead Simulations, you ask?
Doghead Simulations is the developer of an application in VR called Roomy.
Right. It's a platform.
A VR platform. They originally were built for enterprise collaboration, so save money from sending people around the world and have them meet in virtual reality. Now they've pivoted to focus more on education and enabling people from all over the world that can't actually access an in-person class to get a better education through virtual reality.
Yeah, that's right. So they're still doing a lot of collaboration. They're also, as you said, doing education. I think I recall they do defense work.
Yeah, they work with the government, or a lot of governments, actually, not just the United States.
Right. And they also do conferences as well. And some work within conferences. And so, again, it's a platform where people can collaborate and work together that's used in all of those ways. Matt has a very interesting background of how he got into all of this. And I will tell you, we spent like a ton of time talking about his background as well as all the tangents related. If for any reason you don't like having fun, then you can fast forward to like halfway through and try and you'll get more of the VR focused stuff.
Yeah.
But just trust me, it's worth the wait. Just listen to the whole thing and you'll understand more of what we're talking about towards the end. And it's just part of Matt's whole story.
His whole persona or archetype. He is a very unique individual.
Yeah, for sure. And Matt also has, because of all the work he's done in VR and because of the person that he has some amazing insights about the industry in general, how he has become so successful in the past few years and where he thinks it's all headed. And he is making the case that we will all be waking up and the first thing we'll do is go into VR, and that will be the last thing we do before bed at night.
Yeah.
But hear me out, that will in turn make us closer to our loved ones.
Yes, that at the end of the day, it will ultimately bring us together.
Yep, and literally, physically, not within headsets, and that it will enhance our lives. So you'll have to listen to find out all the details there.
Yeah, that and many more things.
One more plug. Shirt Cockers comes back. Anyone?
Oh, yeah.
Episode 1?
Episode 1. You got to go back and watch.
There's a quick reference to that because turns out Matt is one. Just kidding. Okay. What else?
Secret
Anything
Winnie the
else,
Pooh.
Jay?
No, I think that's it. I mean, we get into all kinds of cultural references and whatnot. It's just a fun conversation. Really awesome human being. And we should just dig right into it.
Yeah, just a good time. All right, let's do it.
People do the craziest things in like VR experiences in particular that like you would never expect when you're like building the thing.
Yeah.
It's true, actually. Yeah. We have our customers use our product for all kinds of shit, and I had zero idea that was even possible. You know, like I didn't even know how did you do this, and why are you? Can you please hop on in a meeting and let's find out what you're doing. Like, please educate me. That happens. That literally
like
happens.
That's not even how the physics work in this world, and you are somehow.
Yeah. What are you doing? What are you doing on this thing?
I love hearing stuff like that. Oh my god! And I do want to get to that. Wait, we digress so hard. Okay, so I want to reel it back and go back to
your progression.
Because we were talking about how you love Twilight, and then you moved to Seattle.
Misquote. That's a misquote. I was misquoted.
So you got really into singles, and then you journeyed to Seattle.
Yeah. Were you like a grungy dude when you moved here?
Was
that weird?
What was your level of grunge?
Yeah, what was your level?
Oh my god, that's a good scale.
Were you
grunge level? I like that.
And also, is goth and grunge? How much did those intersect? Like, what's your goth grunge graph?
Ooh, we were very yeah. Are they are those intersecting lines? That's a good question.
Is it like a Venn diagram?
Yeah. Is there a convergence there? I don't know. Yeah, because I feel like it would be an economy of scale.
I feel if you're like a particularly like punky goth, then you like have inherited some of the grunge culture, and you could be a particularly like dark grungy person, and intersect with the goth.
You totally could if you were like a goth, like the goth king. You know what I mean? Like in the clique, you're the king of the goths in your high school clique, and then you have the king or queen of the grunge in your high school clique. Yeah. Those two will meet.
Oh yeah,
and they will be super cool with each other, and then the two groups. But it's like mixing groups of friends. Like, how often do you do that?
Those are
sometimes
where,
you do it, sometimes you
don't.
Those are gray areas. Yeah,
cliques cross over and you like interrelate a little bit. You're like, well, we've got some stuff in common.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. Yeah,
like the I definitely was part of like the emo and scene kid crowd a little bit. Like I dabbled in that.
I don't see you being emo.
Oh my god, look at his hair. Come on.
Well, okay, I see it in the hair. I think the scarf is throwing me off.
Weren't you playing Death Cab when I walked in? No.
I did love Death Cab. Oh god.
Okay, I can totally see it.
That's a great album. Oh my god, so good.
I think I do see it. I think it's that the scarf throws me off. A little bit.
I'm not wearing cut-off fingerless gloves anymore, or like the black
or like
thermal
maybe the
shirt
lack
with like
of
a white
eyeliner. No.
Yeah.
Did you wear eyeliner?
I did try it a few times, and I also tried straightening my hair a few times, and I also had my girlfriend's pants at one point, like the black skinny jeans.
Oh my god, I love this image.
You would have
Chucks,
dude. Chucks. Oh my god, you would have killed in like the '80s, like big hairbands.
Yeah,
wearing your girlfriend's clothes and just go rock out on stage. With your music background.
Yeah, but like I was also like in wrestling and did theater and was in orchestra, so like I was all over the place.
Yeah, you were a Renaissance man. That's what we call that.
Well, and you were in wrestling. I mean,
that's a totally different
Warren
culture.
Silvis.
Jay Warren.
Yeah, exact. Come on, boom, right there. Yeah, you're on a path.
Yeah,
my
easy
friend.
transition into WWE.
I'm
the wrestler with like intense,
the intense guy liner and the fingerless
like,
gloves.
Literally just like. Like angry raccoon eyes.
This is happening. This is totally happening.
Anywho,
yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, or a graph of grunge and goth, as you put it.
Yeah. What were you about? What were you about?
I was a pretty normal dude, actually. So I grew up in the ghetto. Like I literally grew up in the ghetto, and we were broke as a joke. But so I wasn't like I was like you. I was like kind of like Mr. Gray Man. I kind of fit into everything. Whatever.
I will chameleon into.
I was cool with everybody. Yeah. I didn't really care who you were, what you. I didn't give a shit. I was like, we're all human beings. Let's just kind of be that.
Yeah, like I'll find what is interesting about you all and interesting about this group.
Yeah,
and I get on with everybody.
That's just kind of how it's in my DNA. It was cool, but I will tell you, like as far as my grunge, I think it came out in music.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So I loved like the Pixies, the Cure, all of that kind of like emo. What am I looking at? Goth kind of music. I loved all that, but I also love like all rock. So I was just kind of all over the place, country, whatever. But it came out in my music. So I would say I was like a solid if I had a Scantron test, I would be a C. I would circle C for that question. I would be right in the middle. Yeah.
I feel like Jay and I can both identify with that. We're both
absolutely.
like, we like a lot of different things. And, I feel bad for almost asking the question to force you to identify in one
Yeah, because
area.
I always hate that question.
Yeah, I'm like kind of all of the above. Yeah.
All of the above. I mean, I have like we all kind of have to identify with different things, whether or not we want to at different times.
Growing up, you just have to
just because we do.
Yeah,
right. It's just like how our language and brains
also,
work too.
I feel like the people that you start to kind of like build around you in your community, like they're inevitably going to identify with things. So you, as
like-minded individuals.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you got to start like at least standing your ground on some things, and you're like, okay, I guess these are the pillars of my identity.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
My community.
Yeah. Just be cool, man. Yeah. Just be cool. Yeah. That's it.
That's what I'm about.
I want to know what your grunge identity was.
0, negative.
Seriously? Come on.
But I have something to add. So I was, if anything, I was an athlete, and I would have fallen, if I had to fall into some sort of group, I feel like it would be like a, not preppy, but definitely not preppy. I hated the kind of preppy culture, but I feel like it was something somewhere along those lines, just because I was like an athlete and like kind of identified with like a lot of different groups, but I cared about school. You know what I mean? Like I was a good student and a good person.
Yeah.
And all of that. And I wasn't very risky or like with my identity, I would say.
Yeah.
But my boyfriend is older than me, and he grew up like a lot of our first conversations had to do with him like telling me about the 80s, and like we actually which is kind of a weird thing to say.
Like, what's going on?
But, yeah. Well, like we would carpool together. That was how we got to know each other. We would carpool together to work, essentially, and he would play a lot of like The Cure and things like that, or like New Order. And I would say when I was younger and they played 80s music on the radio, I didn't like it because they're like constantly playing the same Aha song or something like that. And
like,
you just
how many times did you hear Journey? Or,
you just hear the same stuff over and over again. You don't have the context. And I feel like what he gave me was a different experience with the music, also just more exposure to the music. And then just by telling stories or talking about stuff, I feel like I started to envision what it was like and why that music was cool at that time and all of that stuff. And it makes such a difference. And so now I would say my goth grunge score or whatever is much higher. In fact, he like belongs to goth clubs and started introducing me to those. And I think they're so fun. They're kind of bizarre. And actually, because he's from Florida, what's bizarre is that Seattle's actually not that good at goth clubs. But Florida is like amazing.
Really?
Florida?
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh? Nobody
And I think it's because I think that's why.
Makeup running all the time.
I think that because the culture there is so much like the beach and stuff that people need the opposite.
It's a strong countercultural movement.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so they have like some really famous goth clubs there. And I'm telling you, like he showed me one and I was just like, I've never seen anything like this. It was really cool.
Yeah. That is, so I feel like every time you get a strong cultural movement or like identity in an area, you always find a really strong anti-culture there too. Yeah. So like here in Seattle, I feel like that's the like tech sort of bubble that has blossomed here has almost strengthened the resolve of the like grungy anti-tech community of people that still exist here and kind of grew up in that.
Yeah. That's a good example. I thought you were going to go with like, since it's cloudy here, the counterculture would be like all the people who dress as though it's not cloudy and cold. You know, like all the people I'm like, oh, are you going to the beach on this 40-degree cloudy day?
I'm going to go surf in my like 2-inch thick wetsuit.
Yeah.
It's freezing.
Like, goes 5 degrees up. Everyone's like in their flip-flops and stuff. I'm like, dude.
Oh, no. Yeah. Like 60, if it's sunny, like if it's like 58, it's like if you got a convertible, tops down.
Yeah. Tops
down. You see that all the time.
Yep.
People dress like they're going to Coachella. Yeah. Like,
I know. Like, what is going on? Yeah, totally. Yeah, let me put on my duster and wear it outside.
Anyways. Okay.
You'll catch your death.
So how did you moved here, obviously, as inspired by like all the grunge and just the Seattle vibes.
How old were you then?
I was 25.
Okay.
So I helped start a company. We just IPO'd. And I was like, okay, bye, Felicia.
From Arizona.
It was literally, I think, at that time when Friday. Yeah, that was from the movie Friday, and that was back then. We were saying it back then, and it's just popular. Yeah. I don't know if it's still popular.
It came back. It did come back. Honestly, I didn't know what it was from.
Yeah.
I knew it was a thing. I was like, Friday. It's probably from a YouTube thing.
It's some YouTuber. Yeah. It was cool. So I moved out here and just got totally immersed in the culture. Loved it. Love Seattle. And
so you were already in sort of that tech community through the company from Arizona, and then when you moved here, you also had that in your blood already.
Yeah, I actually moved up here to help start up another company.
Oh, okay.
And so it was
new opportunity.
It's my narrative. You know what I mean? Like we've all got a personal narrative, and it's like I was tech.
Yeah.
I didn't have a college degree. You know, I was too fucking poor to go to college, so started a company instead.
You're just like
you started a company when so. That was the first thing you did was start a company.
Well,
you
to
didn't
be
think
fair,
like, hey, let me go interview and try to,
I did try that actually. Okay. I did. I legitimately tried to. So this is all like pre-internet.
Yeah.
Right. It didn't exist
pre.com.
Yeah. Pre.com. Yeah. It was just like a sparking. It's just And so what I did do that. I didn't. Like I said, like we were too poor. I mean, I liked school, but school did not like me, and so I didn't even know what an SAT was. Like I went to not the greatest school.
Thought it was like an STD or something.
Yeah, I was like, no, it's not for me. No, thank you, sir.
I don't want any of that.
I do not want that.
ACT,
I went to health class. My good man.
School taught me better than this.
That's right. So I did not attend
Mama
that
said,
day.
Always avoid the SATs.
Honestly, I wish they did say that. They're not that dissimilar.
Are they interesting? No, they're not. It's not like Twilight. I can't wait to see how this ends.
No, I could definitely do without the SATs. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What about the STDs? Also do without.
Well, it's a whole other topic. No, I'm kidding. I'm like, well, you know.
Like, well, let me.
Yeah.
So I was interviewing. Didn't have a college degree. I got laughed out of like interviews, literally I got laughed out of an interview because I didn't have a college degree.
What were you telling people when you were going to these interviews? And you were already out of high school, like trying to target tech.
So what happened?
Stuff?
Yeah, what happened was this. Like, yes. So I was out of high school, worked for 4.5 years. So I graduated at 17. And worked for 4.5 years out of high school in like really shitty jobs. Like I didn't have I had zero skills.
Yeah.
No, I was 14. No, sorry, I'm sorry. I worked for a year and a half. Sorry, long time ago. In like really shitty jobs. But what happened was, back in this pre-internet, so I would go to Arizona State University. It was 45 minutes from my house, and they had a turnstile of like printed out job applications.
Yeah,
and I would literally go. Turn this physical. I would just like walk in to I don't even know wherever it was a job center, and I would just look at like which jobs I wanted, and I would take every single printout that they had,
so that nobody else would go to it.
No one else would go to the interview, and I was constantly the only dude showing up.
Getting one applicant.
Yeah,
like what is happening?
I'm pretty sure that's why people would, my home phone would ring, and
it was the only one.
Yeah, and I would go in, and I remember I've interviewed for this job at so I taught myself how to program. That's the thing. I was like, I went to, I don't even remember the bookstore. It might have been Barnes & Noble. They had literally had one book on program, one. Yeah. And the entire bookstore, one.
Where did you hear, like what inspired you to do that?
I've always been into computers. I was such a big nerd, growing up. And
so
did you have a computer in the house?
Not for a long time. So I'm not at all exaggerating. I literally want a computer so bad. We were too poor to buy one. Asked for one every Christmas, couldn't afford. I didn't understand, until I got older, like the value of money. Like, these things are pretty damn expensive.
Most of us have that.
I asked for
but Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Mom, I asked for a remote control helicopter and a computer. Never got them, surprisingly. They were so expensive. And so but I would like program. So I taught myself BASIC by writing down like go-to statements on a notepad.
Nice.
Like that's what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't have a computer, no keyboard, so I was like, I'm going to write it down. It'll come in handy one day. Anyway, fast forward, I ended up, I got a job delivering. I was a paper boy delivering papers for
like on a bike.
Yeah, like on a bike. Nice. And I saved up my money. I bought a computer.
Oh,
bought a Commodore.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then
a Commodore, was it the
64? Yep, Commodore 64. Fucking awesome computer. I wish I sold those things today. Those are so badass. Anyway.
You ever been down to the Living Computer Museum?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, they've got like that and a bunch of other
I'm taking a break down there tonight. I'm going to go bust it out. I'm going to liberate me a Commodore 64.
Like, good thing this isn't being aired for a couple months.
That's right. It wasn't me. I'll wear gloves. Right, Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
Like in the news.
It'll be fine. I'll wear a mask and gloves. Yeah, and so anyway, I ended up buying that, taught myself how to program, and I just was like a voracious reader, so I read every single book I could get my hands on. So I just taught myself. I didn't learn it in high school. I taught myself physics and like differential calculus and stuff. And I applied for a job at Intel and I got it. And so I was, one of the things I did at Intel was I taught transistor device physics at Chandler Fab 6 facility. So I taught like a course on NPN transistors and PNP transistors and, growing transistors on a silicon substrate. And I literally taught that class to people much older than me. And I went to they hired me. I was shocked that they hired me.
How did they hire you to teach that?
This is how they taught me. Before my interview, so first of all, I freaking lied on my resume. Like I built up the world's biggest, straight up like I was like, there was no internet, there was no Googling of people, no background. So I was like, there's the biggest piece of BS. And here's why I did it.
Like I'm legitimately Spanish.
Oh yeah, I'm legitimately Spanish.
I'm literally Spanish.
Literally, I'm literally Spanish. That was the first line.
That was the very first line.
I am like 10 on the grunge scale.
Yeah, you read my resume. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, Matt, keeping it real. Chacon. That was my sweet answer. All that. Yeah, so I went in for it. But I saw this interview on actual television with the rabbit ear antennas where Whoopi Goldberg was on like Oprah or something. It was on the middle of the day. I don't know what I was doing at home. Probably skipped school that day. And Oprah or somebody was interviewing her and they asked Whoopi Goldberg, like, what's the secret to your success? And she just like leaned in and she says, lie.
Bullshit.
Lie. And so that's what I did.
Like fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it, basically. Yeah. And I got the job.
Oh, wow.
I did really well. I worked my ass off to keep that job. And anyway, so earn trust.
Yeah.
So eventually earned trust. They didn't give it.
Get your foot in the door and then like they didn't make it happen.
Yeah, they did not care that I didn't have it at all. So and then I remember going to my boss and I said, my boss was on vacation. Sorry, I went to my boss's boss. And my buddies were starting up this computer company. They needed money to buy a computer because it was $3,300 and it was a king's wage back then. And still is today for many of us. Yeah. And so I went to my boss's boss and I said, hey, I want to do this thing called CBT, computer-based training. I want to I can program in BASIC, Visual Basic. I want to take all my transistor device physics courses and put them online. And I said, there's this cool company called Netscape. And pretty soon, like in a couple of weeks, they're going to release this thing called JavaScript and tables. And trust me, it's going to change the face of the world. And he looks at me and he goes, Chacon, the internet is going to be the ham radio of the 90s. He goes, it's going nowhere. And I quit. I quit that day. I just walked out. I was like, all right, this is not for me.
Fuck this. You don't see anything in this.
He was not visionary enough. And so I was like, all right, man, I'm out. So helped my buddy start up a little website development company, and 3 years later, we had a $63 million IPO.
Okay, so you're like, they don't believe in it, so I'm just gonna go with my friends.
I'm gonna do it,
make it happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
So, that's awesome, and I have so many questions about that. But the first one is, what is a ham radio?
Oh my god!
So I was kind of like a techie growing up a little bit, so like I know about it from that, but I also studied like signals Intel for a while, so like. That's the other reason I know anything about ham. But how do you...
Because I'm imagining a radio in the shape of a ham. Everyone's like, it's going to be that next
with an antenna sticking out.
Yeah. Antenna, spam, ham radio. It's awesome.
Like the hamburger phone.
It's when you strap a radio onto the side of a pig.
Ham radio, that's great.
So what does HAM stand for?
What is what?
HAM.
I have no idea.
I assume it's... Okay.
You're asking the wrong guy. That was told to me.
Got it,
we didn't have a conversation about ham radios. Well, but it's like, here's what a ham radio is. A ham radio is like some old dude, like your grandfather, wearing like a flannel shirt in his basement. Like,
and he's got like a bunch of like old equipment in the corner.
Yes.
and like an antenna on the house.
Yes.
And he's like trying to talk to people over in Ohio.
Exactly.
Across the country.
Or like Germany, like on a radio. Yeah, it's crazy.
You could bounce it around the world.
Yeah. Although a ham radio, you need to know someone with a ham radio because but when the zombie apocalypse happens, you need to be best friends with that person.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. I think maybe in the newest Stranger Things season they use a ham radio.
Oh yeah. I feel like it used to I used common in like cop cars in the police force, in like truckers would use ham radios to talk back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
I guess
we're
it was
saying ham, not hand, right?
Ham.
Yeah, ham.
Like
okay, yeah. We're not talking about walkie-talkies.
Like potted or roast ham.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. All right, cool. So anyways, now that we have that out of the way, I have my Wikipedia reading for the week.
Completely useless. Maybe you should
go ham on that history.
Oh, that was disgusting.
Oh my God. You should leave.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna go. You can do the rest of the episode.
Anywho, so what the heck was that company? What were you guys doing?
So it was a tiny little website development company, but we ended up getting purchased by a larger company started with this guy named Joe Firmage. The company was US Web Corporation.
Okay.
US Web was it wasn't really anything. It was just this guy who had raised a bunch of money and said, I'm going to go purchase a bunch of tiny little website development startups.
Studios.
We were a studio. We were a legitimate studio. And we literally had I get questions still now from venture capitalists like, what's your secret sauce? And I'm like, well, if I fucking have it, you're not going to know it. Like, give me some money and I'll tell you. Like, why would I tell you my secret sauce? So we had none of that. But what we had was a cool idea. Everybody wanted to go quote unquote .com back then.
Yeah.
And we were just really good and we could crank out websites. I personally built Wells Fargo's very first website ever.
Whoa.
Really?
Yeah. And it was a brochureware site we used to call them back then. So we just
brochure website so that they knew what it was. You're like, it's a brochure. It's just it's digital. Yeah.
It's basically just like a PDF for a website.
No, well, I mean, essentially that's what it was. Okay. It wasn't a PDF, but it was.
But
like a language so people can understand.
Yeah. Super flat.
What's it like? Because they can't think of it, probably.
3D spinning world with the word email.
Yeah, you're like
going around it, like that kind of shit.
It's like your brochure.
Yeah, it's like your brochure, but it's online.
Yeah,
and it's .com. Ooh, .com.
Yeah.
So so we ended up picking up. We just built websites, and we did them really good. We did better than anybody else in Arizona, and we did them fast. We gained market share. That was our secret sauce, like rapid market share. Mm-hmm. And so we owned like all the sports teams, like the Arizona Rattlers, the Diamondbacks,
that's awesome.
US Open or the Phoenix Open. The list went on, and like Phoenix Coyotes, it was cool. So and we had like legitimate, really talented competition, which was good. Because it proves the market exists. And anyway, so they evaluated a bunch of companies. His US Web, and they ended up selecting us. They purchased us for stock, and like I said, like 3 years later, we went from one office to 55 around the world.
Wow!
Yeah.
And IPO'd and really successfully traded on NASDAQ, and it was cool. Man, it was a good time. It was like,
riding
you know what
that
it was.
Wave.
Yeah.
I was born at the right time. That's literally what that was.
Very fortunate.
I was just born at the right time.
Timed it.
Mom and Dad had that special hug, and I was like,
well, but you did have the skills though going
I did.
in.
Yeah.
All that reading and coding. Not to mention knowing how to balance a bike and throw paper.
Yeah.
That to me is the biggest skill I don't understand.
Balance a bike. Can you not ride a bike?
It's
this
is a tough subject, Matt, and I honestly, we're working on it.
It's a work in progress.
Don't worry, I'm gonna participate in a triathlon in 3 weeks, and
Are you kidding me?
I'm not joking, and I broke my hand. No, I didn't break my hand. I just pulled a. What did I do? Tear a ligament. Yeah.
Good for you, though. That's awesome.
For riding a bike,
not tearing the ligament. Yeah.
I was like, thanks. I actually...
Way to go.
I actually am a little proud of it. It means I was trying. You know how they say, if you're not failing, you're not trying. And so it was one of those moments. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, bikes are scary to me.
But definitely a lot of like advantages that just happen to like fall into a good progression
for sure
growing up.
But what was your role in that company? You were the CEO, or you co-founded it?
Oh my God, I was like the head keyboard cleaner, the junior marketing intern.
Dual duster.
The dual duster. I was a development engineer.
But what did you like the most though?
I loved the work.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I loved like literally like clicking keys on a keyboard, and then seeing them visually.
It's like that immediate change and feedback of building the thing.
It was like that great limbic response. It's like falling in love. You know, you're like, oh, limbic resonance. You know, my brain is flooded with endorphins, and but you know, it's like building
it's
a wall.
Satisfying,
super satisfying.
Yeah,
but it was amazing. It was just amazing to me to know that what I am doing is being translated by this machine.
Yeah,
and then these ones and zeros are, you know, zooming around this computer via electrons, and it was just like nuts for me to see that. So I loved that so much, and seeing my work, and honestly, like I got super high on customer like smiles. Like seeing people just like the eyes and amazed, like the wow factor. That's really what kind of drove me. But I will say, like I've never ever been the smartest dude in the room. I've never been like the richest person in the room. But no, like just like The Rock says, I was like, that guy stole my statement.
Yes, The Rock.
He stole my statement. He must have seen me talking somewhere. He must have overheard me at a hotel. I'm sure of it. But I always said, like, no one will effing outwork me ever. I will outlast you. I will outwork you. I will never ever give up. I grew up in the fucking ghetto. You know what I mean? Like I can get out of that. Like you trust me, you got nothing on me. You're not going to win. I will not let you win. And that's what happened. That's how I got the job. And I was like, I don't care. I'm getting into this by hook or by crook. And that's what happened.
I love that saying. Doesn't that ever exhaust you, though? Because I always felt that way. Like, I just worked harder. I wasn't smarter. And at some point, you're like, Jesus, I'm tired. You know what I
mean? You have that one moment of clarity in the shower one day, and you're just like, holy crap, I've been like doing this for
I think, I think I also refuse to believe in some ways. It's like that. I think it's this weird balance of you don't want to admit to yourself that you think people are smarter. At least that's how I felt.
I mean, everybody's unique. You know, it's cool that you say that.
He's got like different strengths.
But... Yeah, everybody. We all have our different strengths and different weaknesses. It's good to recognize those, but I don't know. It's just I don't care. I do not care. Like I will just. I know I'm a smart guy because you know I can. Put my pants on and walk out the door. You know what I mean? Like I'm
smart enough to do that.
I'm smart enough to do that. You know, although
that far.
Well, I tell you this. One time I was in second grade and I walked outside with no shoes on and one sock. And my aunt Stephanie, who's driving me to school, she looks down and she goes, "Are you gonna put any shoes on?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh, God.
That didn't occur to me.
So maybe I'm not that smart.
I'm smart-ish. Let's say that.
You've grown a lot.
I've grown since that experience.
Well, what made you such a hard worker, though, do you think? Like, why do you like to work that hard, and what makes you feel gratified?
It was my dad.
Oh, really?
It was my dad. 100% was my father. He was a copper miner, I said, in Morenci, Arizona. And, you know, we were super, super poor. And he would come home, I'm not at all exaggerating, literally covered head to toe in soot, like black. And, you know, he was, you know, this proud Spanish man, and he saved his money. And I remember this. He said, "Don't ever tell anyone I'm saving to go to college, because they will make fun of us and they will ostracize us in this town because I'm leaving it, and they know that." Mm-hmm. And one time his coworkers found out. I remember because I was going through. I used to play with his tools, and I was going through his tools, and it was I won't even say what it was, but it was this. His coworkers had carved and he kept this.
As a reminder.
As a reminder, he kept it. It was one of his
just
wrenches.
That innate like societal adversity.
It was hate. It was they carved this horrible thing in I don't know what they used, but they etched it. They roughly etched it into this wrench. Yeah. And I found it, and he told me that, he said, you know, I come home and I look at myself in the mirror and I have to physically wipe the soot off my, you know, the dirt off my face, and it takes me an hour to clean. Yeah. And he said, and then I have to clean my body, then I have to clean the shower, then I have to clean the sink, and every single day. And he said, but he called me mijo. You know, that means my son in Spanish. Yeah. He said, but mijo, that drives me forward. He said, because I was crying. I was like, why would their friends do this? And he said, they're not my friends, and they just know that I'm going somewhere else. Yeah. So he brought us.
You're trying to leave that place. Trying to leave. And so there's all this resentment and anger over someone thinking that they can get out of what all those people just assume to be like, this is just life. Like,
this is just life.
Accept it. Embrace it. If you're trying to get out, you think you're better than us.
You think you're better than us. Yeah. And he didn't. And he was just trying to provide for his family, quite honestly. But that's where I got it, his work ethic. And so that story kind of drives me. And so he got us. He ended up going to University of Arizona. He moved us to Tucson eventually, went to University of Arizona, and then got an engineering degree. Then he got a master's degree. Still couldn't get a job, actually, because of the economy, right? When he graduated, the economy was... So he became a cop. And then he was a cop for a little over 8 years. Then eventually he did get an engineering job and was a very successful engineering senior engineering manager. I don't know exactly what his title was, but at John Deere, actually.
Oh, okay.
And I went on a few business trips. I actually interned with him for a summer. Mm-hmm. Basically, I just followed him around. I didn't even know what he did. I just followed him around. He's my dad. He took me out for lunch. My dad's work. It was cool. Yeah.
Do you know what he did now?
No.
I still don't know.
I love
that. It's like none of us ever know.
None of us, like, they don't know what we do. We don't know what they do.
And then later on, you're like, I don't want to ask again. They've told me a million times.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I've had that awkward conversation with some people, like aunts and uncles. You're like trying to get to know them when you are in your 20s or something, and you're just like, so, what do you actually do?
You're not just my uncle for a living.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And by the way, what's your name?
Yeah.
Is it not like Uncle John?
Yeah.
What is it?
Uncle Jimmy.
Exactly. Uncle Jimmy. What is your actual name?
Yeah. It's a weird reintroduction. Anyways, that's an amazing story about your dad.
What about your mother? Where was she in all this whole?
She was She was never a stay-at-home mom. She also went to work. I mean, my sister and I were legitimately latchkey kids.
Latchkey.
Like back then was this term where your parents were working too poor to hire a babysitter or whatever. So you're alone. Like you do everything. You cook, you clean on yourself. You
lock the house when we leave. Kids stay at home.
Yep.
And,
latchkey. Latch and key. And so, but she was worked at like insurance agencies.
Okay.
And so, I know she did that. I don't know what her title was, but I know she did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, and we eventually made our way to South Central Phoenix, Arizona, when my dad had a master's degree, could not find a job, and grew up in the ghetto. And but eventually, we got out of there, and we literally moved to a really nice white house in a nice neighborhood, and
like a literally white house, or a house in a white neighborhood.
No, both of those.
Oh, okay,
it was both of those. We were very Spanish and Mexican, and I mean, we heard it all. Like, here come the leaf blowers. Like, we heard all that shit kind of growing up, and you know what I mean? We heard all that, but it didn't faze us. None of us. Like, we were all like, whatever. Like, we're in your neighborhood now.
You're like, oh, we live next door.
Yeah, exactly. We live right next door.
Right.
But it was an actual white house, and we're so proud. We're like, we live in the White House.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute.
It was nice. Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
I have one sister. She's 18 months older than I am.
Okay.
Lives in California. Yeah. And that's it. Which is weird because we came from a gigantic family.
Yeah.
And it was just the two of us. Mm-hmm. One thing that did suck that my dad never wanted to teach us Spanish. Like, we never. He wouldn't let.
I totally get that.
Yeah. It's an immigrant thing.
Yeah, I think there's like an idea when they're coming over and get established here, and it's like you have the best interest for your children, and you want them to be like raised up and embrace the American culture so that they can better like mesh and meld into society here.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of parents almost they're like, well, we don't want people to think that you're Spanish or Mexican or whatever it is. So like, we're not even going to pass that on to you.
Yep.
And then we end up kind of like washed of that culture after the fact, and like wondering like, why didn't I get to be bilingual growing up?
Right.
Like, why didn't I inherit these things to identify with?
Yeah. And did that happen to you?
Yeah.
Your family? Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't get it from either side, actually, and I don't blame my family for this, because again, it's like, I understand where they're coming from.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
But like my dad's side of the family, they're all Spanish and Mexican. And then my mom's side of the family, at least the side that I was much more connected with, they are first generation. They came over from Austria. So like my grandmother and my great grandmother, my whole time growing up, they would always speak German to one another. But they never, like, I grew up with my grandmother for the first 5 years. They never passed that language along.
Yeah.
I grew up eating the food, but I never like got a window into that. And then on the Spanish side, I was separated from them by just coasts. Yeah. Grew up on the East Coast of the white side of the family, and the Spanish Mexican side were all kind of conglomerated on the West Coast. So I'd go see them for reunions, but even for all of them, all of my cousins, they all grew up in like white neighborhoods because the uncles and aunts' parents had intentionally moved them out of the ghetto or the poorer neighborhoods into more privileged white neighborhoods. Yeah, to get them out of that situation. Yeah, and it's crazy to look back on that.
That's great that they did that they were able to move forward in life.
Yeah, like it's definitely a good advantage to have had like an extra few steps ahead that they gave to us. Yeah, but it's also that juxtaposition with like, well, now we lost some of our cultural identity in the process.
Have you tried getting it back? Like,
I'm in the process.
Yeah, that's good. That's
trying
good.
to now.
That's good that you can do that. Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I've done that. I'm long past that actually, but I've kind of visited the old stomping grounds, kind of where both families came from. Mm-hmm. I've been to both like hometowns, and I can see why they left. Quite frankly, I would have left too. But I'm doing actually. You know what I did recently is I did ancestry with traits, the DNA ancestry DNA and traits. I haven't gotten my results back yet.
Okay,
but which one is traits? So I've done the Ancestry.com one. Is that what you're talking about?
And then there's 23andMe.
And then what's traits? Is that part of Ancestry?
Traits is what I bought because it was an Amazon Prime Day special. So I will find out.
So that's its own thing.
It's its own. Okay. So I think what it is, it's like, hey, you are more not susceptible. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, you will have these types of. So let's say it comes
diseases,
back and say,
like so you have a medical component to it.
There is for sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah. There's a medical component, but you have like these types of traits like. Most of your family have blue eyes, black eyes, or not black eyes, hazel or whatever. Maybe black eyes, whatever. Whatever. And if you marry into these types of other, whatever cultures, this is kind of what's going to happen.
Oh, weird.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, this is what you.
These
are
the kinds of traits that you will see come out.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. Yeah, I believe that's what it is.
For like planned breeding.
Yeah, I was going to say the first place that my mind went with that is like, whoa, okay, so like that almost enables you to start thinking about, well, if I was partnered up with this particular person, these are kind of how like kids would look versus if I partnered up with somebody of a completely different like ethnic background or ancestry. Yeah. Which that opens the door to like almost unconsciously starting to select
for sure
more. For sure. Interesting.
I was a little freaked out about it. I was like, I've been thinking about it for a long time. And I was like, I don't want them to have my DNA. But then I was like, you know what? Who cares? Like, what are they going to do? Clone me? Nobody's going to clone me. Or, what are they going to do with my DNA? You know what I mean?
Like, we need to clone Matt.
Yeah, we need to clone Matt. I legitimately need a clone. I would be happy for them to clone me as long as I could lease my clone.
I could benefit lease my
clone. If I could benefit somehow from my clone. Yeah.
I don't know if other me would want to be rented though.
I feel a Tom Cruise movie coming up here.
Yeah. Oh boy, this is like so weird. Tom Cruise keeps coming up this week.
You're talking about Minority Report.
Minority Report.
Yeah.
What were you guys talking about with the report?
Well, we were talking to someone who works for Rec Room, and how her history was working with hand gestures for HoloLens, and how like their initial approach was, okay, everyone wants Minority Report to be a true thing.
Yeah, that scene where he's just like moving.
Right, where you're like moving everything. And she was like, but in real life, it gets really tiring. So you can't have your gestures that dramatic, you know? And I thought that was awesome.
Nobody wants that. I think people ask for a lot of things they think would be great. Yeah. And then once they get there, they're like, this is not so
And you're
great.
like, wait, I have to do work?
Exactly. I have to raise my arm.
I can't just rest my arms on my desk and press buttons
anymore.
I have to fingers. Dance to navigate through my browser.
Yeah. That ain't ever happening. I'm telling you, man. Yeah, nobody's going to do that.
Everybody wants to dance along the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you would love it as a flamenco dancer. Well, you would chill with that.
I would love dancing through. No, but I feel like it is kind of a lazy thing. It's like, when all the video games came out, where it's like full movement, or it was like, meh. How like actually bringing up Beat Saber once again, it's like that you get the full swing, like you get more points. Everyone's like, God damn it, like no, it is fun because you can be like crazy, but you can't just do the like little hand jiggle.
I think like I don't think I'd want to be like having to move that much all the time.
Yeah.
Just to navigate through like simple interfaces and things.
As your job, like part of your job, no thank you.
Yeah, like if I was like working in like an architecture like CAD program and having to build models and kind of like do all that kind of stuff on a regular basis, I don't know that I would want to have to stand up in the middle of a room and just constantly be like sitting there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I don't know. Maybe that would be fun. It'd be like sculpting in AR.
I think it comes down to task specific, right? So
yeah,
you don't want to have to do that just to open up like a Word document. You know what I mean? Like I gotta freaking like bounce around.
It's like unrolling the scroll.
Yeah, exactly. Although I'm writing that down. That's a good idea. Next
it would
feature.
be rewarding. It's like, what is rewarding? It's that balance, you know?
That's right. But then you have to read it like, today at Doghead. You know, like you're announcing.
Totally. Is that how you do your text to chat?
Maybe that's
why I'm
Is that how your morning stand-ups work?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I would like better. Well, there's text to chat, but there's also chat. What am I saying?
Text to chat. Yeah.
just text it to us.
I just type and the computer talks for me. Which like you're like using like the MS voice renderer.
That's great. Oh my gosh.
You're like, hello everyone. This is welcome to the stand up.
I have to say though, I am very upset that voice messages are not a bigger thing. Because, for instance, like we leave video messages or voice messages. Like voicemails was a thing, and people like that became annoying after a while. Yeah. But one thing I do like that I discovered, I've only found it on Skype, is you can literally leave a video message now. Did you know this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like, so like I've accidentally pressed that button trying to call someone. Because it looks the same.
The interface is not great. Skype team.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, Skype team, but like seriously. So, but then I discovered through that mistake that you can record like you can just like say, hey, how's it going? And then like send that message. And I guess there's no difference between just taking a video of yourself and sending it to someone, but it does feel different. And I don't know why, but I always have fun doing that. Like if I'm I'll like Skype with a friend if we're working on video stuff together. And if he's not around or he's like, I'll be right back and leaves for like way too long and it's sketchy, I leave a voice message just like singing to him, like, where'd you go? You know, like, and just, like doing all this stuff. And I feel like there's something really funny about that. So I always wish that and like doing voices, like you said, if you could do that, because your whole voice to text, and it takes away any cool voices that you would do. Like if you're opening a scroll.
There's rich information and just like feel lost in that transition.
Yeah, it's contextual. It loses all of that.
Yeah.
Contextual dialogue.
Any sort of inflection.
Yeah, so I will say like Albert, period. Can you remind me to quote say, you know what? And I literally will talk like that on voicemails now.
Oh.
I'm like, God, son of a bitch.
Oh no! You're like, I'm using the robot voice again.
So like, I'll do like a WhatsApp voice message to someone, and I'll literally talk like a robot to them. I'm like, Jesus Christ! They're just like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, have you lost your mind? But you know what I do? Like, I hate video chats. I hate them.
Really?
I hate them with a passion. I cannot stand them. So much bandwidth, you know, and it's like then the audio quality packets get lost. It's such a
it gets frozen.
Yep, like
frozen all the
occasionally
time.
gets pixelated, and you're just like, oh god,
I hate them.
Yeah, it's like that. There was that funny YouTube video that came out where they like acted out a bad video meeting.
It's called a conference call in real life.
Have you ever seen this, Jay? It sounds like you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
Have you
amazing.
It is
awesome.
Hilarious because they will do stuff like they'll be like beep and they like enter the door, but then that person will disappear again. They're like, he's here, and they're like, he's here, and they're like, where'd Joe go? No, he was just here. He just entered. Oh, we must have lost him. You know, and
he's like, oh no, I've been here the whole time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I had my mic off.
Yeah,
it's exactly that. Yes, it's so brilliant. It's literally called
like somebody just freezes. Because their frame is stuck,
right?
And you're just like,
much,
Joe, can you hear me? Where'd you go?
Yeah,
oh, crap, we lost Joe. And he's like, oh no, it's fine. Sorry, what were you saying 20 minutes ago?
That's
amazing.
That's like when you and I try and talk all the time.
Yeah.
what I have taken to do, so there's a small. I found these. I don't know how they're so old, but there's this store called Spencer's in the mall.
Yeah,
it
has all the like funny toys and
weird
tricks
pop
and
culture.
games.
It's just like it is a huge pop culture store. Right?
Do they still have them? They still have those stores?
I don't know.
I don't know. Emo, dark, and kind of like punky pop culture stuff. Right?
But on Halloween, they would have like the, you look like a zombie kits and kind of weird stuff. Mm-hmm. So I found a bunch. I don't know why I have these. I don't remember purchasing them. So I'm not at all exaggerating. What I've taken to do for video calls, because I hate them with a freaking passion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll put sores on my face using this kit and just see if people say anything. Nobody says anything. Nobody says a word about them. I have like a droopy eye.
It's not enough to be a full costume. You're just like...
No. Just put like a droopy eye or like a hairy mole or something. And people like... They like kind of look at you cockeyed and their eyes like they look at it. They can't stop looking at it. Yeah, but they can't stop looking at it. Because I hate them. Everybody's got to do their hair, makeup, whatever, to get dressed. And I got to put a stupid call. I don't. I do not. Yes. I do not do my hair or makeup. Because I have none of those things.
Wait, so this makes...
I shine the head.
Yeah. This makes so much sense, though, because it sounds like this is what, like, eventually in your life, you hated them so much that you developed your whole entire company around not having to video message.
Yeah, you're like, we need something better.
100%, yes. Calls. That is exactly what happened.
And this is from like you had because I stalked you a little bit, and it sounds like you had, so going back to our timeline here, after you moved to Seattle and then you were helping, you had said you had transferred with a company, right? You were trying to do something, I forget what it was.
Yeah, so we started a small.com, got purchased by US Web. Yeah. There's so much I don't put on my LinkedIn because it feels braggy. And then also there's people I just don't want contacting me.
Yeah, it's like after a while you've done so many different things that it's just like, well, it's not all relevant.
And who cares? Yeah, seriously, like who cares?
Like I managed the snack bar at
exactly.
I was in my high school theater club.
Yeah. I'm actually you should change it. We should all change it to nothing but that. Actually,
just all of the most obscure references of like your
I would
life
love
history.
that. I remember that moment of being like, I guess I'll delete this now, and
just obscure experience.
Like, I guess this doesn't matter anymore. But those are like, there are some great stories from that.
That would legitimately good stories. Yeah,
that would be awesome if like one day a year it's like a holiday where like any sort of resume online or on your LinkedIn, you change all of your experience and stuff to all of these random obscure things that no like job interview would ever be looking for.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, dude.
And then you could like run around and see like random people and like what their obscure and just weird things that they did.
Makes people more interesting.
It really does. Yeah, but people are afraid to talk about it. Yeah. So anyways, you should talk about it.
Yeah. You should talk about it.
Yeah. How did you make that whole segue from like the .com stuff
to hating meetings so much?
Oh my God. Jeez, I've always hated meetings. Always hated meetings and podcasts. I'm telling you. So no, I kind of like started companies, help start companies, sell IPO, whatever. So kind of did that.
Yeah.
And I owned a professional services firm, and we had clients all over the world. And I just remember one day I had meetings with people in Pune, Tokyo, and Malmo, Sweden, and we tried everything because it was just a shit show that whole day. We tried Skype, Blue Jeans, Zoom, you name it, all of them. We tried all of them.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
you're
it was
like,
a mess.
well, the meeting time is over, so I guess
we've used the whole 2 hours just trying to get a meeting started,
to connect. Yeah. People saying there, that conference call in real life. That is legitimately why we started the company.
Yeah.
So we were like, this got to be a better. Anyway, I called. So my buddy Albert. So this is what happened. I had business expertise. Yeah. Or expertise, quote. Nobody's really an expert in anything. I had experience.
You had been through lots of small businesses and startups and adventures at that point.
Yeah. I kind of, run the gamut. And my buddy Albert was working at HTC at the time and working on VR. And my buddy Chance was not doing anything. He was just, kind of traveling around, living in Brazil, post Call of Duty. And so I was like, look, guys, man, there's got to be a better way because I'm having all these problems.
Yeah.
And Albert had been legitimately trying to get me to start a VR company with him. And because of my age, I'd seen it kind of come and go a couple times throughout my lifetime.
How old were you at this point?
I was 42, I think. Well, no, 40. How old was I? When he started talking to me, I think it was 43.
This wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. No,
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago. I was 43, and
you're like, nah, man, that's the ham radio of the.
that was literally me. You know what I said to him? I was like, dude, I've seen Lawnmower Man. Like, sorry, dude. No, thank you. And he's like, and then you know what he said? He said, come to HTC. They have a keg. And I was like, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there, buddy. So I brought like 7 other dudes.
Yeah.
and we just played like the lab, I think, like all night and drained 2 kegs. Oh, yeah. And in HTC Vives. And I took on my headset, so sweaty, and I said, dude, I looked and I said, it was so disgusting. I said, content, technology, talent. We've never had those. Like, literally, that's what I said. We've never had those 3 things converge.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
One of those kind of pegs has always been missing. And within weeks, sold my other company, threw everything into this company.
You were sold?
You were like, I was on it. I was like, this is changing the effing world. And I said that because he had told me that. He said, this is going to change the effing world. And I was like, buddy,
you said it back to him, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I literally just said that.
Mr. Ham Radio, buddy. So we did that. Yeah, we started Doghead and got like within like 3 weeks, we had signed on Tencent, Tencent, I think that's how you say it, Tencent, Amazon. I think that's how you say it, Tencent.
I don't know. I don't even know what that is.
They make makers of WeChat. They were our first customer. Then like a few days later, we signed on Amazon. And then after that, well, they were using us. We didn't sign anybody on anything. Mm-hmm. We just have a contractual relationship with Tencent. Yeah. And then went to Shenzhen a couple times, and then
Shenzhen. That seems to really be just like a tech startup and business sort of capital over there for us to interface with China.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Beijing, Shenzhen, Beijing.
Yeah, because the IoT company that I worked for, they were a startup that I was working for when I first moved here in Seattle back in 2017, and we constantly had people going back and forth between here in Seattle and Shenzhen. Yeah, because we were trying to get manufacturing set up there, and there are all these distributors and companies there that are already building devices that you can then just build into your product ecosystem or whatever it is.
For sure. Yeah. And there it's booming, you know. And it was back then. And got a personal invitation from Alvin Graylin, at the time the president of HTC China. Just called up my phone. I was sitting at my bar in my condo one day, and he's like, hey man, you want to come to the Virtual Reality Venture Capital Alliance meeting with us in Beijing next week? Yeah. And I was like, sure. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And we were off to the races. We converted from LLC to C Corp, and boom. Wow. It was crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
Just nuts. So it's been fun. But I will tell you, like, the reason it's been so good is because the 3 of us co-founded the company, Chance, Albert, and I. And I mean, Chance just understands 3D environments so well, like so well from his Call of Duty days. And I think he's the reason we have such high quality environments. Okay. And he kind of poo-poos a lot of things we want to put in there because it doesn't meet his quality standards, which are very, very high, which are good.
Yeah. I mean, he's coming from like the AAA game and ecosystem.
AAA game studios. So it was good, actually. It's been really, we had the right people at the right time. Again, like born at the right time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So recognizing the opportunity. It's been cool.
Yeah. And that was, so you guys got started in like 2016? Yeah.
2016.
Yeah. It's so crazy because you and I talked like shortly after that, right?
We did, yeah.
I'm trying to think, like when was that in the time frame? Were you not even released yet, I think. I think you were just about to come out with it.
We were, yeah. God, it's been that long, really.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh my gosh, doesn't seem that long.
I know.
That's wild. Wow, you just blew me away. That's nuts, yeah. Wow, you really gave me a pause there. Because it's gone fast. It's gone super fast. But so we when you interviewed me, you had a different hairstyle at the time. Your
probably straight.
Yeah,
well, we were on camera.
Yeah.
I probably looked pretty different. I was actually a little nervous. You would be like, so where's Kelly?
Well, I remember because you're like, we're going to be on camera. I was like, oh, shit. Okay, I guess I'll wear a sport coat. So I wore a sport coat.
You and I were both just like pretending.
Yeah, big time. Yeah,
we're like, we are formal and professional all the time, of course.
Yeah.
We are formal.
Oh, I know. I look back at some of those. I definitely look back at some of those videos and I'm like, God, I was trying really hard in front of the camera. camera, you know? It's just so nerve-wracking when you first start going on camera, you know? Or just in general. I mean, there's that pressure.
Yeah.
That's what's nice about doing a podcast.
I agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree with it. Even when I was like, I had this epiphany, and this is a relatively recent thing, but with my company, it was exactly that what you're talking about. It was, I am playing a part. I'm playing this part for other people that I don't even know.
Yeah.
These venture guys that I'm trying to please them, and I just said, why?
Yeah.
Who cares? These people are strangers to me, or whoever it is. You know, I'm just using them as like an example. They're not bad people at all. My point is, why am I playing a part for these people I don't even know? They're complete strangers. I'm just gonna be myself, man. And just you know, kind of do what I've always been doing, and it seems to work for me up to this point.
Yeah.
You know?
It can be confusing though. I mean, in any work environment, I guess, and like when you're put on camera, you are forced to play this part, and I feel like you get confused about who you are too. You know, you're like, well,
because you're having your like whole outward identity scrutinized all of a sudden, and you're just like, oh wait, all these different things that I do normally.
You're being judged.
Yeah.
You're legitimately being judged.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you're younger, you have this feeling like you need to play that part, you know? And like then looking back, it's like if you took a picture of yourself at the time, it's like I have no clue who that person was.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you did that because you're on video.
Yeah.
And, you know, you didn't have a choice, right? It was moving pictures.
Moving pictures in the TV box.
In the TV box,
yeah.
I actually did that. So I recently pulled up an old picture of us standing in front of the VR VCA banner. And I was doing so much to please other people, I totally neglected myself.
Yeah.
And I was like 30 pounds overweight, at least 30 pounds overweight. And I had just stopped exercise. I stopped paying attention to my own body, like my own mental and physical well-being.
Just disconnected, kind of.
Completely disconnected. And it wasn't helping anybody. It wasn't helping me, not my company, nobody. And so I actually recently started, because of that, I was like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. I'm going to just do my own thing. But I started working out in VR. And
oh my gosh,
you mentioned that.
Yeah, well, you texted me being like, I'm just going to do some VR workouts and I'll be over. And I was like, cool.
Casual, you know.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah,
I'll see you in room.
I'm in one right now. I'm just finishing up.
Yeah. Like, you haven't done yours yet? So
like, get on it. Come on.
So
6 a.m. this morning.
What the hell is that? I do. No, now I have a memory of seeing you post something that was about doing push-ups in VR. And I think I honestly like didn't process it. I was like, I don't even know.
What's happening? Who's this Joker?
Like, what does that even mean?
So, yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It literally means just working on VR. Literally, I just like, you know, it's my life. Like VR is literally my life. Eat, sleep, breathe, all that stuff because I have to and I want to. And so I was. What happened was I was in a hotel room in New York, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm fat." You know, I literally did not recognize the person in the mirror. Yeah. And I was like, I completely let myself go. So I put on my VR headset just to look up like workout videos. And I found one doing a plank. So I streamed myself to Periscope doing a plank in VR. And it was the first one I think I'd ever done. And I think I ended up going for like 8.5 minutes.
What?
Just because I didn't.
People come on the stream? Or?
People came on my stream.
You did a plank for 8.5 minutes being super out of shape. That's just annoying.
You know why? Because I was just like lost. I was like in VR, just doing my own thing.
You weren't thinking about it.
I wasn't even thinking about it.
You just kind of like locked up into that position and then you're just like off.
Yeah. And then literally like my arm started to shake violently and I'm like, oh God, what am I doing? I need to stop this.
Face plant into the ground. Onto your headset.
Your tendons just give way.
Exactly. Like this is not good for you, man. So but I streamed it.
Okay, so you're streaming it, but you're also, while you're in VR, are you watching workout videos, you said?
I am.
Okay.
I'm either I think at that time I watched a workout video and then I got bored, but I was like, okay, that's how you do a plank. And then I put on Star Trek, Next Generation.
Oh, so you just dove into something else.
Dove into something else and and just had that on. But now what I've taken to doing is I like the gym bag I brought over here because I just finished another VR workout on VR.
Yeah. Where you carry dead bodies in that bag.
Essentially, yes.
Because that's how heavy it was. Yeah. Those are your weights. Yeah.
Those are my
okay,
weights.
great.
The one I handed you.
Let me help you with your bag.
I just started like doing all kinds of crazy workouts in VR, and I think I'm gonna have like a bunch of people work out with me.
Are you doing it with other people? Is what I'm curious. Is it a social thing now?
I have not. Good question. And because like working out in VR is effing gross. Your HMD gets so disgusting.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure working out in VR is a good idea, but I do think I'm going to do it with other people. I'm going to continue doing it, and I'll do it with whoever wants to do it with me. But it makes sense I was thinking about the driveway. I was like, okay, what is this actually useful for?
Yeah.
Because I literally posted a side-by-side photo of me going from fat to fit by just working out in VR. I post a lot of videos.
Yeah.
I stream a lot of content, just proving, hey, this actually works. This is my personal
making
journey.
a difference in my life. So,
it may not work for you.
Yeah.
But it works for me. But I think if let's say like you're a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And I'm your client. That's, I think, where the rubber meets the road in VR. You could load up videos of yourself working out, or you can maybe, if you have a full body avatar, you can look up. There's all kinds of different things you can do. Meal planning, whatever.
Yeah.
So but I've been working out. It's been cool.
Yeah.
It works.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I've always
sweet.
The way that I've always thought of that is just like put like wrist and ankle weights on and then like play Beat Saber or something like that.
Beat Saber is legitimate, man. I do that for my cool down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's so fun. Oh my god.
Boy.
What is your
cool-down.
warm?
Yeah.
What is the meat of the workout?
That's a cool down.
Burpees. I do like Navy SEAL burpees.
Gotcha.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. Yeah. So I need to kind of devise some kind of duct tape chin strap on my Oculus Quest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you move around that much with a head mounted display on? Like,
on my
this
videos,
heavy hardware on your face.
You'll see my videos. It's like when I jump up and people like raise their hands over their heads on a burpee. I just hold my HMD on my face.
Oh, nice. When you're jumping. You're just,
That makes sense.
Oh yeah.
One time I tried doing a burpee like when it was first thing in the morning, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna do that thing where I work out in little increments of time. And so I was waiting for my coffee to brew, and I started doing a burpee, and I did one, and it's like, you gotta warm up to do burpees.
You do. Yeah.
Like,
yes, you do.
Warning.
Yeah.
Because I did one, and I was like, huh,
PSA.
Landed flat on the floor.
just like threw every part of my body out.
Like,
and
my
I was
body
just
was
like,
not ready to do a push-up.
Like, it was so bad, and I haven't done one since.
Well, aren't you doing a triathlon like in 2 days or something? Like, what's happening with that?
It's gonna be tough.
Is it like a Tour de Franzia or is it a triathlon?
It's a VR one. You don't have to actually go down.
It's a virtual triathlon. Perfect.
No, well, I am historically a runner.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of back issues since I was young, pretty much. And I played ice hockey, and I think I just like destroyed my back somehow that way.
Cool.
And and I basically was getting sick of it this year and thought I'll do cross training. Mm-hmm. But I am scared of swimming and biking. So
have you not done either one of those things?
Basically.
Don't drown.
Yeah, I know how to swim, but knowing how to stay afloat and swim in general is totally different than swimming for sport.
Yes.
In fact, one of my friends
need to make it out a quarter mile and then come back.
One of my friends was a lot of talk, being like, I can teach you how to swim. I teach all my campers. Then he came to the pool with me. I'm like, what do you call it?
Good luck on your triathlon. You're gonna crush it. What's that?
You know that like sidewalk that they fill with water?
Yeah. What's that called?
The really big bathtub in the middle of town.
Was in my brain. I think because of hockey, I was like going to call it a rink, and I'm like, no.
The swimming rink.
Oh my God.
You know the
it's
rink,
a liquid
but it's
ice
melted.
rink. Yes.
No,
I'm familiar with this.
But
The
he
skate
was
park with
dying after like one lap, and I hope he's listening to this because I was just like. Anyways, no, I've actually really been loving learning to swim. Really love it. I think I also chose a triathlon where it's a beginner one. So it's a sprint one. So it's still a half-mile swimming, though, which is like a long time to swim. Yeah. That is a half-mile swimming does not equal a 5K running.
No.
Yeah, so the swim is gonna suck, but there you can stand on the side. They also allow you to technically swim with floaties, so we'll see how it goes.
Oh, right on, fun.
You're gonna have the little wing floaties on.
But you're allowed to just, as long as you don't advance by walking, you can. It's open water in like the Columbia River,
Okay,
but it's close enough to shore. And then the bike is only 15 miles, which is totally doable.
Yeah.
It's my fear is biking in the city. It's more just like the traffic.
Yeah.
And
They're
because I know what
they're not blocking it off.
well, I'm sure they are, but
when you're practicing,
when I'm practicing and I have to go through the city, I mean, even just today, it's like I basically cut off a biker, and I'm trying to be aware, but it's like I know what the mentality is as a driver, which is basically you don't even see them.
Yeah.
You're looking, you're just not looking for it. It's bizarre. You'll see the cars and you won't see the biker.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Are you gonna ride a line bike in the triathlon? That would be amazing.
wait, what is it? Sorry, I thought you said
the bike shares.
You can do a bike share for the triathlon. You should totally do that. That would be amazing.
I thought you said this is how much
Like a lime-colored bike.
I thought you said land bike, and what's funny is that,
versus a water bike.
well, there's literally an aquatic like biking
There
thing, I
is.
think.
Yeah.
So that wasn't. I
Like
mean,
a paddleboard,
it was.
but
I was like, I mean, land bike, like a road bike.
Yeah, land bike. Yes, man.
Yeah,
I am
right.
That's
riding
like
two-wheel
road
land
bikes
bike.
versus mountain bike. There's land bikes in the middle.
Yeah.
It's
We
like
should start a
all-purpose.
company called Land Bike.
It's like Land Rover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
We won't sell anything. We'll just see what people want.
Yeah.
What do they expect us to sell? And then we
We're
will
just gonna
make that
poll
thing.
people. And
We're going
see,
to poll
like,
people.
if you knew of a company called Land Bike, what would we make, and would you buy it?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
What do you think we make?
Why don't you tell us?
Because maybe we do. You never know.
Hello, Land Bike.
okay, yeah.
I'm inquiring about what products you sell.
What is your product?
What would you like us to sell?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think we sell?
What do you want to buy?
Oh God.
I will legitimately invest in that company. I think we should get it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you are so. What I want to know is like, how did you get all your businessy part of yourself?
Yeah, because you talk your businessy
To
part.
speak
Your
technically.
businessy
My
bits.
businessy.
Where do businessy bits
My
come
businessy.
from?
Yeah.
Use the technical term.
That sounds wrong.
The businessy bits. I haven't lost them, thank God. That's good.
Like I've had those since the beginning. Thank you.
You said that. I mean, if you just look at your current resume, it's all like, CEO, blah blah. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Who is this fucking guy?
CEO,
Chill.
co-founder, like,
Yeah.
Harvard Business School, but your whole background.
The whole conversation up to this
No.
point, you were only talking about this like engineering experience.
Yeah.
So like where
And
did
how
that...
you liked making stuff. I mean, it sounds like you got involved, obviously, in the whole like startup process.
Yeah.
But yeah, where was
Yeah.
the transition to being more business oriented?
It was very, very, very much trial by fire. What happened was literally this. So again, like I went years and years and years with zero college degree, no college experience, never went to college. I mean, eventually did later in life when I could pay for it myself, but that was post US Web. But and it was literally just like I didn't go to college to please anybody to get a job. I literally just did just to do it. I just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
I'm actually sorry. I don't want to interrupt your
No
whole
worries, man,
background
go
there,
ahead.
but like, what actually did cause you to kind of decide if you were at a point where you already had this solid skill set, and you had, I'm assuming you went through a couple different ventures and companies by that time, but what actually made you feel like, yeah, I want to go do that, even though it's not for like a particular requirement for what I'm doing?
Yeah, I mean, partly honestly, it was just, I was bored. That was one part of it. The other big part of it was 9/11. Quite frankly, this was all post 9/11. So, what happened was, so the businessy part, to go back to that, and I'll come back to that, is
Businessy bits.
the business bits, which I'm now putting on my LinkedIn profile and my resume, which I call a brag sheet, which is amazing. My business bits came from literally I was I think at the time I was still a software developer. I was a propeller head kind of Poindexter dude, in the back of a dimly lit cave coding away with my other buddies and all the other Poindexters. And so we hired these two dudes, they had like CompuWare experience. They were very senior executives. They're the reason we were successful. These guys like knew what they were doing. We knew how that's when I kind of understood like, oh, it takes a team of people. It's not just
we're not just building the thing and people buy it.
And people buy it. It doesn't work that way. You know, you have to actually sell a product and convince people to buy it and blah blah. So one of the guys like burst into our dimly lit cave and said, Microsoft will not approve us for Microsoft partner status unless we have a QA organization. And all of us were like, what's a QA organization? What are you talking about? We didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
And he goes, do any of you want to be like a QA manager? And all I heard was the word manager. I said, I'll do it.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened.
Okay.
So trial by fire to get Microsoft. I studied what that was. Didn't know anything. And
you Google QA and see what comes up.
Oh my God.
Question and answer manager.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Question and answer. I had no idea.
You guys have any questions?
Oh, geez. So what questions you got? I'm here to answer them. I'm the QA guy.
It goes back to like...
That's your first day on the job.
Like,
everybody's like...
Yeah. What do you think we do here for QA?
What do you think we do?
Now that I'm the manager of the team, any questions? I got answers.
I got a lot of answers. I kill at bar trivia. I just want to tell you that right now.
Really?
As a QA guy.
Oh, okay. As a question and answer guy.
So
that never changes. Yeah, so
I was like, oh.
But I do legitimately love bar trivia. Yes, more bar than trivia. No, but I that's what happened. And then once 9/11 hit, like I had a hard time processing that. You know, like I legitimately I was working. It was a shock. Yeah, like it was kind of a hard thing to witness. And I watched that happen. I thought, you know what, I have to make a change here. So I went to a military college, got a degree in counterintelligence. And and so when you said like SIGINT, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of been there, done that. Like I know what
you were around that community.
And what I tell people is I could tell you what I did, but I have to kill you. And the problem is you would die for a really boring reason.
Yeah. Like, it's not actually as interesting as you think.
Yeah, it's not like you're Jason Bourne running around or anything. Yeah, it's more Silicon Valley than Jason Bourne. Yeah. But then, so I got a degree in counterintelligence. Then went to Rutgers for social media marketing, and then Harvard Business School, and all great experiences.
How do you go from counterintelligence to social media marketing?
What was the logic there? Were you thinking of working for one of the agencies or something? Or?
Oh no! I was literally thinking of how do I further my business. Always. Like so. What I learned was here's how you prevent the collection of sensitive information, like information security.
Yep.
In counterintelligence. And I also learned that, human beings are largely driven by 4 factors. It's called MICE. It's like money, ideology, compromise, and ego. So money, and ideology being faith, compromise being like legitimate, like sex, and then, ego. So how you, what do
like the underlying and some unconscious like tensions that are around just the fact that we all have some form of sex as an identity.
No, legitimately,
what we're attracted to, or
no, legitimately, like I want you to buy my product. What drives you? What's going to move your needle in the right direction? Is it like a honeypot scheme? Now we didn't do those, but what I mean is, holistically, that's what one of the things I learned in counterintelligence is that people are driven by at least kind of 4 primary desires.
Right. I got confused by what you said, Jay.
Yeah, I'm I'm a little bit mixed up now
because compromise was only one of them where he mentioned sex.
Yeah,
you're really obsessed with sex, Jay. No,
wait. No. Okay, I think I maybe this is me like doing the mishearing thing.
Okay.
For some reason you said mice, but it's C for
it's
compromise.
Money, ideology, compromise. Yes.
C is for compromise.
Are you like, what was that? That was from Sesame Street, right?
God,
yeah,
honestly.
Yeah. The Count.
I didn't watch Sesame Street. My mom always says I grew up on Real World, and I'm like, that makes sense now.
On Real World? Like
well, I had 2 older siblings,
Oh my God.
So, anyways.
Your mom is
so I don't know that song.
Your mom's
but I do know about sex.
Okay.
You know the
sex. You mentioned compromise and then said something about sex specifically, and somehow I like mixed that up and was assuming it was like MISE.
No.
Okay.
I think they, you know how people do like, oh, we need a cool acronym to describe this thing.
Yeah.
You were in the military. Okay, well, let's MICE. And they'll just say, okay, compromise just equals sex. Yeah. You know, it equals a honeypot.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But like counterintelligence operations, if you're trying to, you know, do, as you know, like do something in a counterintelligence operation, you're trying to convince somebody to work for your side. Are they going to be driven by money? Are they going to does their ego drive them?
Yeah.
You know, how are we going to convince them?
Yeah, what are the motivators?
What are the motivating factors?
And you can try to map out like what influences them and drives them.
Yeah, what influences them? Yeah. So anyway, it was interesting, but you know, we don't do that obviously at our company. But
so you're taking like a discipline that's kind of like completely separate and constructed for a different purpose.
Yes.
And then took those skills and you took them forward with you into your business.
What I took forward, 100%. What I took forward was unconventional thinking.
Yeah.
Asymmetric thought processes.
Yeah.
So then with social media marketing, it was, okay, so I know how to prevent data collection and how to collect data through like different open source signals intelligence, like LinkedIn, Twitter, or whatever.
Yep.
Now social media, and I know kind of what drives people online. So how do I leverage that through social media? Yeah. And legitimately was, I need to make sure that my company Ruckworks, which was the name of my company that I had at the time, Ruckworks, yeah. Okay. Like, how is it successful? Like, or I need to how do I make it successfite? Yeah. You know, using these two disciplines, I need like a social media marketing strategy. Yeah. How can I leverage signals intelligence collection through like Hootsuite or whatever to collect like sentiment analysis, and then how do I leverage that in social media to legitimately influence people to pay attention to us? Yeah, so that you buy our products. Yeah.
So you're thinking very much from like the individual motivations of the people that you're trying to sell to, or your particular community of users, and then also applying that to like competitors and other people in that same market or ecosystem.
And exactly. And what I learned was, you know what it comes down to, man? Authenticity and trust. Yeah. Really, that's it. I was like, well, I just wasted years of my life, getting these degrees. Thanks for nothing. Yeah.
So, it's like, okay, we just need to be real.
Just be real. Be authentic, earn trust.
Yeah. So. I think that's the only way to really earn real trust.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's good.
Yeah. And then did you go straight into Harvard Business School?
No, that happened much later. It happened during Doghead, actually. Oh, okay. And kind of how that happened is I noticed that I was like, I want to do something else. And I honestly, I was like, will they even pay attention to me? Like, could I even get in? It's literally like,
there's a curiosity about that.
Yeah. You're like, if I figured out how to just do a solid application there, would I even have a chance? Of getting it?
And it was easily hands down the best experiences of my entire life. Okay. Entire life. It's everybody there is so incredible. I have legitimately drank the Kool-Aid.
And you were much older when you went there too.
Yeah.
Then obviously not people coming out of high school and going to
exactly college. Right. Exactly.
It's a different experience.
It's a very different experience. Yeah. It's better actually for me. I think it's better to have that life experience,
Totally.
Yep.
And leverage that. And honestly, I made truly, truly lifelong friends.
You're like more focused. You're more of an identity at that point. It's like, why you're there.
I actually think I annoyed my professors because I was constantly the guy like, ooh, call me. There's this Harvard Business School podcast called Cold Call. And, the lead-in is, someone says, the dreaded cold call. And I'm like, cold call? Like, I was going out of my way to get called on. Like, I was trying to, like, be teacher's pet. Yeah. Like, I don't even know what this podcast is about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you always feel like when you were younger and you were interested in engineering and all of that, did you think that you wanted to own a business and own your own business?
I did.
You always had that feeling?
The reason when I was younger, and this was a very naive, so just my very honest answer to the question.
Yeah.
It was a very naive thought process at the time when I think I was 10 or 12 when I had this. Tron, the movie Tron was out.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't remember how old I was when the movie Tron was, but I remember having it during kind of that year when Tron was out. Tron was a big, big motivator in literally virtual reality in my life. Tron was kind of when I was like, oh, amazing.
And you're like, it's alternate world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so Yes, I thought so. What I had this epiphany when I was a kid, and it was like I said, a very naive epiphany, but I was a kid. What do you want from me? So it was.
You weren't a genius.
I wasn't a worldly man. I wasn't the world's most interesting man yet. And so, so I kind of had this epiphany. I was like, oh, the way to truly like be successful in life is you have to own a business, like monetarily successful is what I thought. Like that's why I say it was naive. You have to own a business or be a celebrity. That's it.
That was your perception at the time.
That was my perception of success at the time.
I mean, it's not that far off.
It's not that far off. Yeah, it's not that true.
Hey, yeah, like those are definitely two very prominent forms.
Yes.
What
but having
society considers success.
Agreed.
Well, monetarily, I mean.
Monetarily.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Monetarily, it wasn't far
Those
off.
are two forms that are often considered, but by no means the only ways that success can
Right,
absolutely not, man. Like later in life, like what I've also realized like later in life that look, you only get one life.
Yeah.
And so the point is not to accumulate monetary wealth. That is absolutely not the point at all.
At some point,
life.
it doesn't even matter anymore.
Doesn't matter. Like you can't take it with you where you're going. You know, sorry, it ain't coming with you.
Yeah.
So I think I realized like, I've achieved some success, but the point is to give it back. Like be humble, be kind. Like help the person next in line behind you.
How can you affect everyone else around you?
Yeah, like move the world forward.
Yeah,
that's what life is about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when did the perception for you start to shift in that direction?
My
more of like a communicative sort of like impact.
You're asking really good questions, man. It's weird. Yeah. So I have legitimate answers to all of these. So. My buddy, I'm
literal
not
answers
like,
or symbolic?
These are real answers. They're legitimate. They're not symbolic or esoteric. My buddy at the time, and I'm not like faking my resume like I did for my first job. It was a total bullshit.
This next 5 minutes is complete bullshit.
Yeah, it was total bullshit. So my buddy Greg Henkel, I had a very growing up, I very much respected my father's work ethic. Mm-hmm. My mom, I loved her, but home life was, let's just say it wasn't a happy home. It was not, it wasn't a good place. So I spent a lot of time at my buddy's house, Greg Henkel, and we call him the Hankster. Great dude. And they gave me a key and they said, just come over anytime, just walk in. And
that's awesome.
I did that all the time. I would just pop in. They'd be watching TV. I just sit down next to them. No, we wouldn't say a word. They just pass me the popcorn or like peanut butter sandwich or whatever they were. Yeah. They just whatever. I was just part of the family.
So you had like a little bit of sanity even when things were crazy.
And it was wonderful.
In your home. Yeah.
And his mom died of cancer. Oh. And I remember she was such a beautiful, bright, wonderful human being. She should not have died. She should be alive today and be doing amazing things. Yeah. And that really, really affected me. And that's kind of when it hit like, oh shit, like the point is to kind of do good things. Because that's what she did.
Yeah.
And she was really, really like a bright light in my life. And I will never forget her. And so that's kind of where that came from.
Okay. No. That's really cool.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to bring it.
No.
Well, so it seems like you are doing that because what you're doing at Doghead Simulations is largely based on providing education to the world. I mean, there's obviously collaboration as well.
Yeah.
But it seems like you seem driven by providing education.
And just like making some sort of positive impact back on all of these different communities and people.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like it wasn't an option. Like I said, like I didn't even know what an SAT was.
Yeah.
Like, I liked school, but school didn't like me. And so I didn't go to the best school and the home life wasn't great and couldn't afford college. And I remember thinking like, having gone through now the college experience, like it's effing expensive to go to college. And there is no reason you need to go to hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to get a piece of paper. There's none, absolutely no reason. And I know there's people like me in the world and much smarter and better and kinder people than me in the world who don't have the opportunities, who have no opportunities, but can do great things if they have them. Mm-hmm. So I want to do that. That's legitimately what I'm doing at Doghead. It is a core ethos, and it is my absolute passion to I feel like it's my mission in life actually to bring education to underserved communities, whether that's in Atlanta or Tanzania or wherever it's at, places we have where we're teaching, people using women to teach, to just inspire. Like it's not me doing anything really; it's me just providing a platform for teachers, quite frankly, instructors to inspire because that's what they do. and just giving them a better tool to do that and to reach someone who maybe doesn't have access to that, to quality, high-level education.
Yeah.
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 Do you think when you started Doghead Simulations, did you feel that strongly yet? Because it started off with more of hating video meetings.
That's exactly where it started. Yeah.
And I do remember when we first talked that your tagline was something more like reducing travel costs for meetings, which I know is still the case.
Yeah.
But I'm curious how it's grown and developed, because I think you've gotten more and more since we talked into education and developing partnerships and relationships with institutions, whether that's, there's some, it sounds like there's some government and, various, I don't know, you would know better than me, but I'm like, various governments are using it for different reasons, educational institutions. And so, I'm just curious about what you think has changed or how it's grown for you since it started.
Yeah, like what was it about VR in this particular setting that really felt like you could make a huge impact in that regard?
Yeah, so good question. So a couple things. So, every business pivots and evolves with changing market conditions. And if you don't evolve, you die. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
It's like life. If you're a lizard and you don't
don't change, you will
die.
Fade away.
You fade away, yeah. So that happened with us, and we legitimately started this to solve an actual legitimate problem, which is still in a lot of my decks. And it is part of, we have a deck, it's a 42-page deck. It's long, but we don't really share it with a lot of people, but it's called Doghead Simulations, Our Story. It just tells the story through images and video of our journey. And it's a very honest, transparent, like, this is where we started and this is where we are. But what happened was, like, a man I very much respect, Alvin Wayne Grayland, really, truly wonderful human being. And I'm not blowing sunshine up his ass or anybody else. Like, he's a truly wonderful human being. MIT grad, great, humble, successful dude.
Yeah.
When we were he invited us to VRVCA. When we went there, we were pitching him, and we were pitching like kind of remote teams run on Roomy, blah, blah, blah. And he looks at me and he stopped me. He goes, "Matt, you don't even know what you're doing." He said, "Your business is not collaboration. Your business is reducing business travel." And that was an epiphany. That was the first one. I was like,
somebody else
God.
saw that value.
He saw the value. And that happened again. So he saw the true value that we missed. And that was like an eye-opener for us. And it helped us. And literally that night, Albert and I and Lily, Whitus, one of our co-founders, no longer with the company. She left to raise her baby, but still a significant equity holder and truly good friend of mine. But we stayed up, Chance, and it was the four of us, and Chance and we stayed up until 3:30 in the morning, completely revising our pitch deck for our pitch the very next day, because it was just a practice with Alvin and a couple other guys. And it was an epiphany moment, and it worked, and we did great. And it happened again when PBS called us up and they said, "Hey, did you know that Hunters Lane High School is using Roomy to teach underprivileged communities in Pemba in the island of Tanzania?" Pemba is like a little island in the archipelago.
Yeah.
And so we're like, "Well, no, we did not." And they said, "Well, we want to work with you and HCC and AMD to film a documentary. We want to put you in this documentary called Good All Over." And so we did that. And that was another epiphany. I was like, oh my God, like this is actually a truly profound platform.
We totally missed this.
Totally missed this. And that's what I said earlier. Like, people educate, our customers educate us on how they're using the software.
They use it in ways you'd never expect.
Yeah. And that was a deeply personal epiphany for me, because I had the exact same experience. This Hunters Lane High School is in not the greatest area in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they're teaching students in even worse situations in Pemba. And it was so eye-opening. I was like, God, I resonate with these students so much. Like, I saw myself in pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
And my growing up. And so that was like, this is the mission. This is what we're doing. We're educating. We're bringing education to the world. Yeah. We're actually making it possible for actual educators who know what they're doing to bring education to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's kind of what happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been awesome.
So there was I feel like MOOCs, I think if I'm saying that right, it's like massively online open classes, or is that the correct?
Yeah, MOOC, massive online open course. Yeah.
Yeah, courses. Those have been like pretty just pivotal in opening up education and kind of like organizing curriculum and allowing people to access new material, things that they wouldn't have been able to learn and before unless they physically went to a university. So like this seems like just using VR in general to open up education to people, to these more visceral and like interactive experiences, and give them almost like an experiential learning platform to be able to benefit from. There's a sort of curiosity that I have here, and also like a potential that I definitely see in that whole area, and it's something that I also feel very strongly about because I come from a non-traditional educational background. I don't have a degree. And I'm also in this situation now where I have like a GI Bill, so because of some years committed to the military, I now have this resource that I can go back later on in life and revisit school as an option, and not have to go into debt for it. But I see so much potential in these open platforms, first in MOOCs, but now in just VR in a way to open up new information and experiences to people and actually teach them in similar to like a real classroom experience. Like you're all together there interacting with a thing in the way they'd never be able to do before. So if you put those two things side by side, like a physical classroom experience and then a VR classroom experience, at the base level, they don't feel all that different. You're really erasing the fact that everyone may be disparate and around the globe. So like, what are the benefits in VR that can kind of take us beyond what you normally experience in just a classroom setting?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I can tell you a number of like how much time you got, man. But I get, let me hit like maybe like top 3.
Yeah.
So talking about MOOCs. So MOOCs are important, massive online open courses. And there's SPOCs. There's MOOCs and SPOCs.
Yeah.
So SPOCs are like specialized, personalized kind of open course.
Okay.
So
what's an example of each of those? So a MOOC is like your general
Coursera,
Udemy, Coursera,
or Udacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or edX.
A SPOC would be like, I'm going to teach you, Kelly, English, or I'm going to teach you Spanish.
What does SPOC stand for?
I believe it's special personalized, specific personalized open course.
Oh, so it's like tutoring almost.
It's basically
direct teaching.
Direct
teaching.
Yeah, person to person. It's like a one-to-one versus one-to-many.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or many-to-many. Okay. Yeah. So relationship. So So where VR falls into that paradigm.
Yeah.
Into really whether or not it's an on-campus experience or an off-campus experience. So is this. So every college now has at least one online course you take. And online courses are very lucrative, but for schools, because you can reach more people. But
your audience is huge compared to how many you can fit in your campus.
It scales.
Well, I actually didn't know that very clearly in the sense that online courses are known to be cheaper. And you're reaching more people, but compared to the small amount of people that pay way more money, I'm like, I didn't actually know if they are making a lot more money, or if some of that is like they're considered a write-off for like charity. You know what I mean?
Like it's just it's an ethical thing. Like they're trying to look good, so they're opening up
I
their
actually didn't really know because there's also a lot of free classes.
Yeah,
there is.
So
and that's
okay.
MOOCs.
So it is lucrative. Is
it's
your
lucrative.
point? Okay,
it's legitimately lucrative. You look at like Khan Academy and others, like they have. It is definitely lucrative, but they all suffer from the same problem, which is, student engagement and online course completion rates.
Oh yeah,
they're not great.
Myself personally have not completed like hundreds of courses.
So many started.
They're not great. So that's in VR. It's better for it helps though. So what we have in Rumi is a proprietary immersive monotasking technology. It's called immersive monotasking. And at its core, what it enables you to do is technically replicate the on-campus experience for people from legitimately anywhere on Earth with a relatively good data connection.
Yeah.
So if I am teaching you're in Spain, I'm in Seattle, and let's say, Kelly, you're in Italy. And I'm teaching both of you some topic. I can recognize a learner gap in the moment and correct it in the moment in VR.
Okay.
And like if let's say that you have a learning app, I can say, okay, Kelly, I'm gonna we're gonna go to a different room, and you're gonna stay here and kind of review these materials. You and I can just pop into a different room, and I can quickly have a conversation about what that is, and quick little one-on-one spike session.
Yeah.
Private session, no one else hears it, and then pop back into the room and continue the session.
Okay. And all the other students, like if this is a real-time class, what are all the other students doing?
Well, typically what happens in our classes, the way the architecture is built, is if it's like a Parsons or a Harvard or a Full Sail University or someone like that, there's an instructor, and it's just like going to a regular campus, like instructor and a TA.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of them can help.
Just be monitoring for people that like could use a one-on-one, more of an explanation for a concept or something.
Someone's not getting it, whatever. So that's one part of it.
Okay.
There's also completely removing distractions when you're in an immersive head-mounted display. So if you're in like a Oculus Go or an HTC Vive or a Vive Focus or whatever, a Quest, you're not looking at your cell phone. You're not and you can tell when people do that because their avatar head, all you see is their chin, like the bottom of their chin, kind of goes up when they're taking their head off.
Because they take the head,
or they slump to the floor
because they put the headset on their forehead, and so it's just looking up towards the ceiling.
Yeah, and there's a lot of advantages for the instructor. So if both of you are being rowdy, like you've been, I can just point at you and mute you. I can mute you. I can mute you the whole class. I can. There's advantages
for the instructor. You've got more control over the environment,
absolutely,
so that it's more constructive for all the other students to focus.
Yeah, and then you can relate topics that are complex to relate in the real world. So think about this: if I'm going to teach you, you have a whiteboard in this podcast room. Yeah. So if I'm going to teach you about vector math, and I'm going to represent a Euclidean vector to you because you're learning how to design 3D objects for a game. Let's say you're building the next Call of Duty game. How I represent that is I draw a Cartesian plane on a whiteboard. I draw an x-axis, a y-axis, and a z-axis. But it's on a 2D flat thing.
Right.
So you as a student may not even understand how I am trying to
communicate this third dimension on a flat space.
Magnitude and direction.
Right.
And they're Euclidean vectors. What I can do in VR is I can legitimately draw a Euclidean vector in VR, and we can walk around it. I can explain it. I can bring in a 3D object. I can put a Euclidean vector on that 3D object. And you can just interact with it.
We can sit there and twirl it around and everything and actually look.
Yeah. It goes back to something called such an old concept called the Edgar Dale cone of learning. There's an educator, Edgar Dale, and he ran the study, and he said, I think it was in the 40s, and he learned that he built this pyramid, and human beings retain 90% of what we experience.
Yes.
Not what we read, not what we see, not what we hear, what we actually experience.
You do. Yeah,
what you do.
You go through it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. I loved the thing you said about the taking a student into the other room, because at first when you were talking about the gap in learning, I wasn't tracking with that, but then it makes me think of hallway conversations that you have with your teacher briefly or going to office hours or something like that. And the amount of times I felt like I needed just like one moment for someone to catch me up, but I would just say, I'm just going to figure it out at home alone. But if I just had that moment with the teacher, it would have sped up my learning so much. So I do love that. Hold your thought, Jay.
Specifically.
It is about that? Okay, fine. Then go. Yeah.
I'll make sure to come back to the thing so you can continue.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to play devil's advocate here for a second. Sure. Can't you do that in a real life classroom? Like if you have a TA and there's a student that because this is all real time, right? You have a student that the TA is like, that they don't seem to like, they're raising their hand or something. They need like more of an explanation. I'm going to go grab them and take them outside in the hallway and like talk through it for a second. Maybe we have a whiteboard out there. We literally do like the same thing. Yeah. And then we go back in. Like either the class in there was like paused that whole time so they don't get behind, or you have multiple TAs that are like keeping up with the scale of students that you're dealing with in that class. And if there's one teacher doing real-time lectures for like hundreds or thousands of students, you need a lot more TAs to be able to handle all that. Sure. So how does that work?
Yeah.
How does that overcome in VR?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just say that VR is not the end all be all answer to everything.
Yeah, those are just fundamental difficulties with teaching. Right?
Fundamental difficulties with teaching. Yeah. So it goes to symmetric versus asymmetric teaching.
Yeah.
Right. So what we're talking about is a symmetric, right? So everyone's in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
And we have symmetry, right? Like, so we're all, we're legitimately replicating the on-campus experience.
Yeah. We're going through the experience, the lecture at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah.
What you don't have in the real world is if I'm just not getting it because it is what you're trying to represent. Like that, you could use popsicle sticks, I guess, as an example to represent, like a 3D space or whatever. Yeah. But what we're missing is, okay, so now I have to take that and I have to mentally transition that into this 3D object I'm going to build on the computer.
Yeah.
Why don't we just do it in real time right now? Boom, and I can see it happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So that's one benefit. Yep. Now it's not the end all be all, and I'm not saying it's going to work for everyone, but it legitimately it works.
Yeah.
The other thing is asymmetric learning. So let's say it's a recorded session, and and I'm just not getting it. Now you can record through video right now and all that stuff, and I still may not get it. Audio is not great, but what I can't do on a flat 2D like Skype recording is I can't walk around what you're telling me and visually interact with this 3-dimensional recording.
A 3-dimensional recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can't.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's all possible now with virtual reality, and pretty much nothing's off the table because it's just 3D.
Yeah.
It's a 3D world.
Right.
It's computer generated.
So it's interesting because actually you and I were on the same page with that once again.
Air high five.
So there's obviously benefits. Like everything you just said really strikes home with me because I'm pretty passionate about education in VR, and for exactly the reasons you said, just the things you can do with it. It's like suddenly I realized that I was, I had trouble imagining vector math. Well, that actually wasn't my problem. It was the problem of, like how, of course, because I'm projecting it onto a 2D plane. I'm like, I don't get it,
Yeah.
Anyways, so let's say there obviously one part of it of education in VR is connecting people across distances. Mm-hmm. Let's say you have everyone in the same class and they're in the same location. Mm-hmm. And you put them in VR instead of in a classroom, you put them in a VR. Now, one benefit is going to be exactly what you just said, which is instead of a whiteboard, it's in 3D. Yeah. Are there other benefits for if you're already in the same location?
Yeah. Like to enhance the existing classroom lecture format.
Bingo. Yeah. That's exactly right. Yes, 100%. And I think that is even more important. A lot of people talk about, even us, because we're being used every day by 7,000 institutions around the world to do corporate training and education, instructional education, blah, 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 remotely.
Yeah.
But really, I think one of the key elements is to use virtual reality to convey complex topics in the moment. Mm-hmm. So let's say I'm in that Harvard Business School auditorium and I'm having this amazing lecture, and then they're conveying a complex topic to me. Mm-hmm. Well, everyone don your Oculus Quest. Now let's go in and talk about this really complex topic and visualize it. That's the key. Let's immersively visualize it together. Everybody get it. We spend 10, 15 minutes in there. Take off your HMD and we'll get back to the lecture. That's, I think, and whatever the topic is, there's complex topics. They abound in life. Mm-hmm. But think of it this way. When I was teaching transistor device physics, I had to draw like an NPN transistor on a whiteboard, and I had to explain kind of what a silicon substrate is and blah blah blah, and kind of go, and this is how you use chemicals to grow it. If I could just show you that in 3D environment, my God, it like reduces my teaching time dramatically, and It's an economy of scale. Reduces my teaching time and increases student participation and understanding of the topic.
Yeah, because it's that mental friction of trying to digest a new idea that doesn't make sense yet, that makes most people glaze over whenever they confront something. And you're like, just imagine that it does all these things and these vague concepts. And you're like, oh, what?
Yawn.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So there's clearly some very significant value that can already enhance the existing in-person educational format.
Right.
There is.
Yeah. So have you mentioned that experience of just the fact that people were using Rumi for education, but do you have other experiences where you witness people using it to teach that gave you some sort of aha moment? Like, I never would have thought to use it that way, or something that made you think about what the future of education could be?
Yeah. So I'll give you a very specific example. We are used throughout the U.S. Department of Defense, the DoD. Mm-hmm. And there's something, you'll know this being in the military, there's something called the concept of operations. So it's called a con-op.
Yep.
So if you need to convey like, hey, this is what we are going to do at this location. I mean, let's use something simple. Like, let's say I have to do a Bambi bucket recovery. So I have to go dive into a lake somewhere and recover this bucket that was dropped into the lake by a helicopter or an airplane. Like, I have to go down there and do that. What you can do is say, okay, well, there's two things, and these are actual. These are actual like use cases. I'm telling you about of ours, customer use cases of ours. You can get a company commander based in Fort Huachuca talking with an engineer in Germany and talking with a platoon-sized element somewhere else, or spread throughout, their stations, wherever they're stationed. They can say, we are going to all meet up. We're going to fly to this location. We're going to do this thing. You can run your concept of operations in Rumi, bring up the map, and legitimately replace the office room that you're loading in Rumi with the area of operations you're about to fly into. The environment, Harvard did that actually with so Harvard used us to teach Egyptology. So there's this really wonderful professor, Professor Peter Durmanuelian. He's a Philip J. King professor of Egyptology at Harvard. And him and Russ Gant, a former MIT guy, and a bunch of really intelligent people taught their sister school in Zhejiang University in China about the Giza Plateau using Rumi. And how they did that was they loaded up an empty room of ours called, and this is not an advertisement for Rumi, I'm just giving you a specific example.
Yeah, I mean, it's an example of VR being used in these kinds of like education and training situations.
Education and training,
and it's why it's powerful.
Exactly. Yeah. So they were able to load up the Giza Plateau, 3D models of it in Rumi, and it was absolutely amazing to see the Chinese students and the American students bridge that kind of understanding and immediately just start talking about. I'm just assuming they were hieroglyphs because I was auditing the class when they did this. I was kind of saying, "How are you using my software?" So they were kind of they immediately just started running around. Yeah. They congregated into their own little groups, and they were talking about the areas they were about to fly to.
Yeah.
In the physical Giza Plateau, they were talking about what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. When we go to this tomb, this is what we need to study.
Yeah.
We need to, and they were circling the hieroglyphs, and they were circling the images they want to study. Mm-hmm. So imagine when you get to the physical location, it doesn't replace physical contact. It augments it. It legitimately augments it. But they have that understanding, and they know, I remember doing this in Rumi. I have a visual representation of
we
this.
were talking about that one particular symbol.
Yeah. And it's this direction, and it's this many meters away, and I have to walk down this shaft. So I'm prepared for that, and I should be wearing these types of boots.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
So those are some examples of how it's being used for education and training.
Yeah.
Do you have, so I remember reading somewhere that you had ideally in the future thought that you would wake up in Rumi and spend the day in Rumi and then go to sleep in Rumi.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you mean?
So This is a simulation. You're in Rumi right now.
Yeah. I'm like, what's happening?
You're not actually.
Take out my headset.
Yeah, take your HMD.
I'm a little scared coming back to like, whatever you said in the beginning about like when you do great things and get punished. So I'm like, oh boy. Watch out for this one.
Exactly. Yeah. Americans are going to put me on a timeout.
Yeah.
So
that's why you need the good 3 names.
I do, and I have them. So I'm good.
You got
it.
You're already there.
It is my destiny, and I'm just achieving my destiny. That's all I'm doing. Yeah. So my personal grand vision, my big kind of blockbuster vision for the company is to make Rumi the first experience when you wake up, your primary experience throughout your entire day, and the last experience you have before you go to bed. Yeah. What I mean by that is I don't want people to live in virtual reality. I don't want it to be like some kind of dystopian version of Ready Player One, which was a great movie and a good book, even better book, but I love the 80s references. I'm not sure you would get them, Kelly, but they're amazing. But it was so fun. I know, or either one of you, Josh. So I know.
I think our whole generation is kind of nostalgic about that stuff now because it was just before we were really old.
Well, no, my theory is that
I think you're right. Yeah.
My theory, not to get too off track, but it's that all the people who grew up in the 80s are hitting their kind of prime age of being like leaders in their positions. So they're the ones like creating the content now.
Yes.
And directing it. Mm-hmm. And so all of our content is 80s content now.
Yeah. It's all nostalgic.
Someday.
So someday. If either one of you have children, then when you're my age, they will be all like living in Twilight. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, yeah. Something like that. Yeah. Hopefully Britney Spears as well.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know. Anyways,
yeah,
off track. So you wake up and you brush your teeth in Rumi. No.
You brush your teeth in Rumi, you get ready, you make your omelets and your scrambled eggs, your versions of scrambled eggs. Yes.
You put on your virtual clothes. You don't have to wear real clothes.
Because nobody's that now in real life anyways.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I have many meetings without pants on, so yes, many meetings. So,
we got a real life shirt cocker here.
Real life shirt cocker. We've been dying to be one.
Hey, don't go spreading that around, okay?
Yeah, I will.
You should put that on your LinkedIn resume.
Earlier
I'll put that
podcast
on my business card.
with Katie Kelly. Yeah,
VR shirt cocker.
Okay, no. All right. Anyways. So you don't want it to take over our lives and be dystopian, but
I don't. But what I would like is it to be useful and make your life better. So what I want is, here's my vision. You wake up, you have some sort of smart device, whether it's your home or your spin bike or your watch, and you say, Rumi, what does my day like? And Rumi on all of your devices loads up your day for you, so that when you are on, let's say you want to work out, so you're on a Peloton bike and it has a screen, you can just hop on your Peloton bike and say, Rumi, replay the Scrum meeting from yesterday, because I know I got one today. I'm just going to replay your Scrum meeting. And then what you can do is, instead of driving to the office, just spend 7 seconds as your commute, which my commute is literally 7.5 seconds right now. You slip on your HMD, boom, you're at the office. You've got your Scrum meeting reviewed. So it's like a crawl, walk, run smart device, maybe your watch, to a screen, to a laptop screen, maybe to a phone, to a computer, to an HMD. So you gradually step into VR, and you use VR for your workday.
So it's a cross-platform sort of interaction that you're progressing through into your like full-on work focus mode.
Yeah, it's a progression. Okay. And let's say you're working and now you want to go to after work finish your MBA, let's say, or whatever, or get a degree.
Yeah.
You can just then either take off your HMD or not take it off, and just leave your office and then go to school. Yeah. Boom, you're in school. So you have. It comes down to a question of accessibility. What is accessible to me? What can I do that I just cannot do?
Yeah.
And why have I not pursued my degree? Well, I can get online, but really I'm an on-campus learner. So that means I have to upend my entire life, apply for student loans, move myself across the country.
To whatever school.
Go to a school. Like, come on, what the hell? Why are we doing this? This is 2019, for God's sake. We solved this problem 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Let's just hop into VR and do all of this. And the reason I want it to be your first, primary, and last is because what I want is people to spend more time physically interacting in the real world with their friends and family.
Yeah, so like less time running around doing all these different things because you're tied to physical spaces for each of those things.
Yes, less time running around, less time commuting, cursing at the drivers in front of you, beside you, behind you.
Yeah, holy crap, because some people literally spend hours and hours every day just getting to and from their job.
Yeah.
Which, like, if you could subtract that away because they're able to work remote, basically.
Yeah.
Then like that's so much extra time that you can spend on other things like going camping on the weekend or like hiking in the afternoon or whatever.
Valuable human to human interaction.
Yeah.
And think about this. It's not only time, it's money. If you drive across 520 every day, or if you drive from north, like Everett to downtown Seattle, you're probably spending $15 every single day just to get to a job.
Yeah.
So you're losing money by working. You're no longer working to feed your life. You're working to pay the toll bill. You're working to pay why do you go to work? Well, I have to go to work so I can pay off my student loans. Well, that's not a good reason. Well, I have to go to work so I can pay off these freaking toll bills. Well, I have to go to work so I can pay. No, you should go to work so you can grow your friends, your family, whatever. Like enhance your life. That's what we want to do.
So in your case, your team is actually using Roomy to have your meetings and discuss the product. Now, in the scenario, let's say you are an audio engineer for a music company.
Yeah.
So you don your headset, and then like, what is your future vision for that? That they would go in and they would have just a different type of interaction, would be using certain applications within VR to edit the audio within there?
So if you're interested, we have had that working for about 3 years. So let's say you want to work on a Moog soundboard or some sort of soundboard, right, to do audio editing.
Yeah.
It legitimately, people just don't know this, right? There's a lot of possibilities. It's just a matter of socializing these possibilities.
So you're talking about like an existing interface for for audio editing, like Audition for Adobe, for instance, or like Pro Tools, or maybe a Moog soundboard, whatever. And obviously, like this VR platform supports bringing that interface into the virtual space, and then interacting with,
physically reaching out and touching the controls, the potentiometers, to change the levels.
To do like twisting knobs,
and moving levers. That's currently possible and is being done right now.
Wait, so you're talking about like literally like it's emulating like a like this behind me, this like physical synthesizer board,
100%,
and manipulating. Okay, so you're not just translating the digital workstation for this tool set, you're like recreating the old analog interaction of turning knobs and doing things that are more intuitive to humans. Okay.
Very
changing
cool.
sound levels. That is a real world use case for Roomy.
Okay.
Do you, because you work from home, I guess, but you're going in and meeting with people, so do you not get that feeling of the work from home sickness, I'll call it, of like loneliness?
I do. Yeah, 100% I do. Yeah, like I said earlier, it's Roomy we don't want it to replace human-to-human interaction. We want it to augment. I actually wrote a LinkedIn article called A Virtual Theory of Connection. That was the title of the article I wrote, talking about this exact topic.
Oh, really? Wait, you're saying you do, like, you
I do get lonely.
You do get lonely.
I do get lonely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think everybody gets.
These are problems that are. It's not like specific to rooming. It's like, this is just a VR, like an issue with using VR as like a remote solution.
Well, it's not even just
general
VR.
And work. Yeah.
It's
we both
remote
work
working.
remote.
It's remote working.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that remote working, I would say, is rapidly becoming the norm.
It is definitely a growing portion of the workforce. That's why like co-working spaces are becoming such a big thing in urban areas.
Co-working spaces will become co-living spaces. They will become co-working.
I mean, there's already some experiments going on with that.
Yeah, it'll become co-everything, right? That's going to legitimately. It's going to become like, hey, let's co-cook a meal together.
Yeah.
Right. So that's all going to happen. But so one thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm thinking about, because like that is very much the case for people that live in cities. But And I was going through a different article and then a podcast on this topic recently as well, that there's actually a growing portion of the population that are deciding to move away from cities as things are changing. And that is something that remote work is also enabling, is that you could work a job that is maybe based in a city, or that you used to have to commute to a city to do. And now you can, as long as you have an internet connection, you can go live out in the country or like anywhere you want in an area where the economy is different and still do a job at some sort of big tech company or whatever.
Yeah. There's no reason you can't do it. So we actually have an entirely 100% remote workforce at Roomy, Doghead Simulations, but the company's Doghead Simulations, the product is Roomy. We have people that work for us all over the world, and we encourage them to embrace the digital nomad lifestyle. Yeah. We have requirements, like you have to have an 8 meg up down Wi-Fi connection minimum. You have to be in a relatively quiet space so we can have meetings. Yeah. You have to have headphones.
Always be from cafes.
Yeah, I can always be from cafes. I try working from a Starbucks. It feels like working from a nightclub.
Jay is always in cafes.
Jeez.
And I'm like, I can't talk to you right now. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's ridiculous.
There is a sort of gray area right now where if you are someone that doesn't want to shell out at least several $100s a month on top of rent to have a reserved office or even a floating desk at a place like WeWork or something like that. But you also, like, maybe you just don't want to be working from home all the time, because I just go crazy if I'm always working at my desk and I never go anywhere during the day for that reason. There's not really a solution that is in between those two extremes of like, well, I either go to cafes or I pay several $100s a month for WeWork. So I feel
I have a solution.
What's that?
It's, well, not to toot Ruby's horn, but it's like you go into a virtual space and you can play like sounds of cafes where it feels like you're in a cafe, and then you can shut that off when you actually have to have a meeting, because no joke, because I need those certain white noise like that, but I also can't listen to music when I'm working on things. I literally play cafe sounds on my computer.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah, so that I don't go crazy.
There's no attachment to the cafe scene for me. I think that's actually more that because of this sort of section of freelance workers and remote workers that don't want to pay for that. So they're being cheap, as I'm being cheap about this, and I don't want to shell out for WeWork. So I'm going to work out of cafes. And cafes are now, like, especially in Seattle, just this huge scene for remote workers. There's always like 20 people with laptops open, any Starbucks or even all the family-owned cafes around town.
Screaming into their like video chat that's frozen.
Like, I want there to be a space that is like a tier down, or just a little bit more for people that are a little bit more flexible than necessarily need a dedicated desk at a WeWork, so that they can go and work at places like that rather than having to go populate all the cafes.
It's like when internet cafes were a thing. It makes me think of that. Like there would be VR sort of headsets and computer areas. I don't know. Obviously the library was supposed to be that, but the libraries are... Oof.
Yeah, there's also just not enough libraries.
Yeah.
Because their business model's not really this, not conducive to having that many.
Let's not get into that. I've had some traumatic experiences at the library.
I think it's just because we're at a weird sort of transitory point in time with the growing nomadic workforce.
Yeah,
that the need hasn't been met yet. I think there's a whole market there.
Agreed.
Interesting. Yeah.
There are people doing, I don't know what it's called, but I know they're doing like home shares, where they're saying, hey, I don't want to shell out all of this money on top of rent and mortgage and blah blah blah, but you know what? I'm living in this great space, and I have like maybe someone has a giant house and they have a downstairs family room.
Yeah.
And people are legitimately having people work from there.
Yeah, just like house jumping?
No? Basically, like come work from my house.
Is that what you meant by co-living?
No. Co-living would be like literally like I'm going to pay to co-live in this, like technically think of it like a hostel type environment.
Okay.
And they have business hostels, which are very, very nice. And for about the price of a hostel. Never stayed in one, but everything will become a thing. And it is a thing.
Definitely a growing market.
It's a growing market.
Yeah, I mean, WeWork is already doing an experience with like We Live or something.
Yeah,
where
they're
building spaces they're buying out living space that is near the co-working spaces all over the world.
I see.
So that you can go and live there.
So like you live there, and then all the people that have all these remote jobs work from that area.
Yeah.
And so you're going into the quote unquote office, but you're all working at different companies.
Yeah.
And then you cook dinner together.
You cook dinner, whatever. Yeah, you cook dinner, and then you take salsa dances or whatever. You know,
I think the industry is like figuring out how do we make like a healthy and just generally like cultivating experience in that regard, rather than just taking like sterile office culture and making it like co-working sterile office culture.
Right. The sterile office culture it's like the BlackBerry, right? Like it's already dead. It just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, R.I.P. BlackBerry.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, BlackBerry, but how many people do you know that run around with a BlackBerry?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I actually did have one at one point. Wow. I know that may shock you.
At one point.
It was always my dad.
You have one, no more.
No more. Yeah. Never had a beeper though.
Do you ever miss the physical keyboard?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, there was something satisfying about having the little sliding out keyboard.
Yeah, I don't think I miss anything about BlackBerry, to be honest with you. But so coming back, so basically, you still get lonely, but you're saying that. So it's not that like this virtual world is going to replace the real world. It's just that it's going to help enhance the work experience, the education experience. It's going to reduce costs and then save time so that you can live life and have human interaction outside of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you augment your human interactions through virtual interactions. So why in the hell would you fight through a 90-minute commute to get to a job and work in a tiny cubicle with people you really don't like? Maybe some of them you do and they're great and you have a great time, but not all of them, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
You know? So why would you do that? You have one life. I understand making life changes are not easy. I get it, right?
Yeah.
But put your life on a path to make a change and to make your life better so that you can just slip on an HMD or pop in from a phone on a Roomie, or whatever, like a VR. Well, I don't care what platform you use, But I want you to use Roomie, but as long as you use something.
Yeah.
And take that 90 minutes. So let's say it's 3 hours total, and go do something like go to school to improve your life, or spend time at the park with your people you actually want to be around. You know.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a interesting point there too. So like there are many different platforms that are emerging that are all trying to do like similar things and kind of experimenting with different forms of sort of VR ecosystems in this space. So like, what does that actually look like right now? I know you've spent a lot of time doing research on that for sure.
Well, there's three basic types of platforms.
Yeah.
I would say there are, very holistically speaking, there are VR platforms.
Yeah.
There's non-VR platforms, and there's market incumbents. So go ahead.
I want to take a moment to pause and stuff, because this may be an audience of people that aren't necessarily in the industry. So like if we're thinking of a VR platform, if we compare like real life, you're like interacting with the world around you. That is your interface, is physical reality. For the internet, it's the browser, right? Everything you do is through a browser, or you could think of it as like the operating system for the computer. Microsoft Windows is the interface for everything we do through that little frame. So for VR, Roomie and many others are building the new sort of physical or virtually physical interface.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're so all of these platforms are building a virtual interface to your real world interactions that are valuable interactions. So here's a real world interaction for how you work, how you go to school, how you play. We talked about Beat Saber and other games onward, Fruit Ninja. So so these are all, they're like portals to a virtual world to enable you to do better things in your real world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, there's great tools out there like, Roomie is, of course, the best tool that you can possibly use.
Of course,
of course. Yeah.
But there's other good tools that like social tools like Pluto VR is amazing. Altspace VR, Engage, immersive. There's a really good company called University, UNIVRSITY, University. They're doing like online education. There are options out there.
So they're already focused on education as well, just in a different way.
They're more focused on like tutoring than anything else. Okay. They are focused on tutoring. That's kind of their niche, But so my point is there are VR, non-VR, and market incumbents, like Skype and Blue Jeans or whatever, and then so there are other players in the space, but what virtual reality enables you to do is, like I said, augment the real world interactions, just make it more efficient.
It's kind of I was gonna say you're taking out a lot of these things we have to do just because of physical Euclidean space that we have to pass through to get places. And then there's also the potential to like drastically enhance the kinds of interactions or the ways we learn. Where does AR or just like more of a intermingling of these virtual environments with the existing real world fit in that sort of vision?
It most definitely fits. Like, look, if you don't have an XR vision, you are wrong. You're wrong. Wow. Like if you don't have, like if you're a decision maker at any company on earth, I don't care if you're a 5-person company or a 5,000 or 50,000. If you don't have an XR strategy, you are wrong, and you are stepping out the door, brother. Sister, like it's gone because this is the world's next computing platform. Yeah. It was like, maybe 19, 20 years ago. If you didn't have a mobile strategy, things, the writing is on the wall.
You're going to get left behind.
You're going to get left behind. So you need to have a legitimate XR strategy. Now, I would say that VR, virtual reality, is not the end-all, be-all. It's none of them are. It's a mix.
Because they're all different components of this overarching sort of new layer on the world.
Exactly. Yeah, well put, exactly. Well put. So like AR, what AR is very good for is co-location. VR is very good for remote presence, right? So kind of connecting people remotely. AR is also good for that, but it's even better for co-location. So I need to mix the real world with the virtual world and place a 3D object on some, like a virtual object on some real object, like a table in my real environment. I can do that through AR. And we've already seen many examples of that.
Yeah. So since you have been a successful CEO in this emerging technology and you had an XR strategy, what have you learned what is one of the biggest lessons learned you've had in this industry that you maybe didn't expect or anticipate?
Yeah, like where you're breaking new ground, figuring out what the value actually is.
Yeah. So
communicate.
Yeah, in the XR space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say a great lesson is that you should understand you should not focus on what's gonna change in the next 10 years. Like what we're saying with XR is we're doing this because it's the next big thing. It's the next blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. It's going to change the face of blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What I've learned is that we in XR need to have a strategy. We should absolutely not focus on what will change. We should focus on what's not going to change in the next 10 or 20 years. What that means is how people communicate. Look, how people fall in love, that ain't going to change. Because it's never changed.
Yeah.
How people educate, like going to school is not changing. And what I mean by that is the need to learn. Yeah. The need to learn. Like what we should be doing is focusing on what's not going to change and then figure out how to apply XR technologies to the things that are just not going to change.
Yeah. So you pointed out there making the necessity of human connection how people fall in love and kind of like the core components of what makes and enables that to happen.
Yeah.
And then also just the necessity to continue to learn and retrain throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
Those are areas where having some sort of strategy to improve upon and enhance those with the technology of now or 10 years or 20 years from now, that's like the more important thing to focus on.
It is. So let me give you a really specific example of that. 100% yes to that. Preach the word, my brother, because that is true. But I would say this. Think about the Japanese worker. Mm-hmm. So specifically the Japanese factory worker. Mm-hmm. So the Japanese factory worker is older and they're legitimately aging out of their jobs. Mm-hmm. So the younger workers don't want those jobs. So what do we do to solve that problem?
Because there's still things that are needed or services that are needed.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to shut down, some giant multi-billion-dollar, multinational Japanese company.
We can't just replace everybody with robots. Like, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen because you have this human tribal knowledge that needs to be transferred to that robot. Then you need a human being to maintain the robot. Like robots, sorry.
It just raises what our purpose or our whole utility up to a different level. Now we service the machines that we use to automate things.
Exactly. So what XR can help with that is worker retraining, or maybe telepresence. Mm-hmm. So I can operate a robot via telepresence through some XR technology. Yeah. Or I can maintain it, or I can go tour the factory floor through an augmented reality experience. Where I can, quote unquote, have telepresence and tour this real world space through, different technologies that allow me to virtually walk through it from my office in New York. I'm walking through a factory floor in, Shenzhen, China, or Tokyo, Japan, or wherever it is. Yeah. Right. So looking at what's not going to change, the need for these companies to continue maintaining business operations. Yeah. Sorry, that ain't going to change. Yeah. And how they produce, it's not going to change, right? They still got to make their widgets and sell their widgets.
You still got to coordinate people. And
Yeah. So I think that's what we should be doing. And I think the Japanese worker retraining programs are a good example of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, speaking of the Japanese, because you had when we were messaging with each other, you said you're meeting with people from Japan. Mm-hmm. And you, just from following you online, you are all over the place. You're traveling all over the world. You're partnering with people all over the world. Mm-hmm. And related to lessons learned, you've just been exposed to how people globally are applying the technology and applying Rumi. Mm-hmm. Is there something that you've seen there that you think most people wouldn't know about?
Yeah, I think so. Good question. Thank you for asking that. So two answers to that. My first answer is when I started this company, we did start to reduce business travel and to reduce the video conference, to improve the video conferencing. And I thought, oh, huzzah, I'm not going to have to hop on a plane. Next plane I go on is to Hawaii or the Maldives. And I'm going to be sitting on I was like, DJ stopped the record. Like, nope, that did not happen. Yeah, exactly. I have never traveled more in my entire life. Yeah. I've never traveled more.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
the opposite effect.
It was the opposite effect. And I learned that, we're not replacing that. We're augmenting, so people are actually using us. What I learned is that there is a passionate desire for people to use our specific software, Rumi, because I'm sure it's other software, but there's many other players in the market. But from my personal experience, it's Rumi. Yeah. They have a passionate desire when they talk to us to use our product to improve their personal lives. And what I mean by that is their personal journey, their work life. They say, look, I want to improve business operations by doing XYZ. Like, that's what I personally want to do. So I can achieve these other things in my life. And it's been so amazing to learn, like, with the U.S. Air Force, they use us to train the next generation of leaders throughout all commands. Wow. So all commands. Yeah. So, and they recently wrote a case study that's going to be published soon at a large defense conference, and showing how Rumi directly improves these people's lives on a very personal level, so that they don't need to change they don't need to request like a change of station to go do something else. They can just literally fly an F-15, F-16, get off the deck, pop into an office, throw on Rumi, and attend this class.
Yeah.
And it's amazingly life-changing. But what I learned is that I didn't replace business travel. That did not happen. It's actually increased my business travel. But what I did was that I helped improve the personal journeys of our customers, and our customers are using us in ways that I never really planned for them to use us.
Yeah.
So they educate us on how they use the software, which is nice.
I think there were several examples over the past couple hours that we've been talking.
Yeah,
where there was some sort of unexpected use case that you then turned into a whole business pivot.
We did,
like with education.
Actually, what happened was we have 4 primary market verticals because of that. Because of this travel and learning their stories, it opened us up to new market verticals. Like education is legitimately, primary market vertical. Corporate training in the enterprise is a market vertical. Defense is a market vertical that we never planned on. And then conferences.
Yeah.
Like Augmented World Expo used us to run different tracks in their conferences. Lethbridge College has used us to run the world's first ever all day long conference in virtual reality.
Wow.
So yeah, with tracks, with speakers. I mean, we had, the CEO of Metaverse come in and give a talk. It was a game-changing experience for him. It was pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's great how flexible you have been. Like, I think given your business background, and unless I'm, too tired, I feel like I remember you even saying earlier in this conversation that you have to change, and you have to adapt and you have to react to what's going on.
If you're not growing, you will fade into
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
And it really seems like, obviously, because we have that connection of just a few years ago, it's like you have grown so much since then, which is insane. So obviously that has proved to be very successful for you.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of so far?
Great question, actually. The number one thing I'm most proud of is bringing education to underserved communities.
Yeah.
And that's something that was like an aha moment for us that we really didn't plan on, but it was very much in our DNA.
Yeah.
We all of us as founders share a very similar backstory. And so it's been like a very nice personal journey for us. But that's been a very nice benefit, is seeing students that didn't even have access to high school education in Africa now go to high school.
Yeah.
Because they're being taught by people in America through Rumi.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is, I mean, that's quite a profound thing. Like, think about it. These people, through education, something we take for granted here in America,
right,
through simple education, now have opportunities that they just didn't have before. They didn't even exist.
Didn't exist at all.
Did not exist at all.
Yeah.
And think about, one of those people could cure cancer, a cancer. They could do something profoundly positive in the world.
Yeah.
Right. But
And I'm incredibly proud of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is just a powerful thing about what VR can open up these new pathways for people, regardless of location. It's just like you open up this sort of knowledge of like you can grow your position in life, or like where you can go. You can learn about this new skill set and then use that to go and do something amazing.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have any access to that before.
It's like, we're tapping into the resources of the world.
Yeah. Like you're bringing the resources of the world to people in a way that even the internet hasn't been able to really do yet, because the internet is like just a mash of all of this information, and it's hard to organize that and present that in a intuitive way. So it's just not as good for teaching as like giving people this visceral, real, like in-person learning experience.
Yeah. What's interesting about that statement too, and that what we both just said, is that don't get me wrong, we are providing the platform for educators to do these amazing things. But what is the profound, and it is profound that these people have access to educational opportunities they didn't have before. But what's even more profound is that they are teaching us. They are teaching us their cultures. They're teaching us how to interact. They're teaching us how to be better. These people who we think we're teaching, I'm going to teach you English, history, whatever. No. we're giving them access to information.
Yeah.
They're teaching us how to be better people in the world, because these people are the kindest, gentlest, most amazing, positive human beings you would probably ever meet. And I like that because the world needs more of that, and it drives all of us forward.
Yeah.
I love that. It's hard. I feel like we should end on that. I do have one more question, which is, since a lot of people are struggling right now, I think, in the XR community, because there was a big rise when the consumer headsets came out. There was lots of investment, and now there's a bit of a dip in terms of, I think, people's confidence.
There's like a fear of like another VR winter or something.
Right, and the ham radio thing. So what do you think it is about you that has brought you to so much success in this industry? Almost like, what advice would you give to people to encourage them, and how can they help continue and stay strong and grow in this emerging industry? Because obviously you figured out a way, like it had to be really hard to grow in the past 3 years. So I'm just curious what you think about what you think they could do, or what you've done that helped you in that regard.
Yeah, sorry, I will answer that question. Looks like you have another one.
No, I mean, I don't want to. It seems like you all are doing something that's not reliant on a hype cycle.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's what I was going to touch on. Yeah. I wasn't going to use those exact words, but very well said. So the answer for me personally is this. So first of all, don't chase the bright, shiny object. You'll hear people that are constantly saying, VR's dead, Bitcoin's the next thing, or some cryptocurrency, or it's like, okay, you want me to chase around these bouncing balls like some salivating dog? Like, how about I have some focus? And how about I just keep my focus, and I keep putting one foot in front of the other, because you know what I'm doing? I am following my gut. Mm-hmm. I'm not following my gut by doing some fool's errand. Mm-hmm. I'm evolving with market conditions. And the reason we've been able to be so successful, having 7,000 institutions around the world in education, enterprise, defense, and conferences using Rumi, growing by 125 institutions, not people, institutions a month, have monthly recurring revenue. Yeah. All of the positives. It's been a hard slog, don't get me wrong at all. It's like, walking naked through glass, when the world is on fire. Like, it's hard. It is rough. Don't get me wrong. That's the entrepreneur, though, whatever, So, it's just being an entrepreneur. But having a focus and staying true to your vision and your focus. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do not deviate from the path, because you know what's going to happen? You're going to step off that path and boom, you're going to hit a mine. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's something that goes up in flames and burns really bright for a few seconds in the grand scheme. But it comes back to what you said earlier about finding things that don't change, that are kind of like pillars of just what we need as a society, whether it's learning or like connection between people. It's things that aren't changing. Mm-hmm. And so if you're building something that is based on just a sort of flare, a spark that's temporary, it's going to go away, and you're going to have a hard time surviving those sort of hype cycles of technology. Yeah. And anything new.
Because you're always chasing the bright shiny object. I know we're getting really close, but I will say this.
I mean, we're here for you. We can take as much time we want. I'm just worried about everyone's like stomachs and.
I know. I feel you. Sorry, I know I could talk about this very passionately.
I think we all could.
For days and days and days. Yes, we all could. Obviously. Like,
that's why we're here.
Going on for hours now, which is amazing. It doesn't feel like that way, which is great. But I will say this. I've always said that Rumi is not... my company... The way I built my company is I didn't build it to be a unicorn. I mean, unicorns are some... Let me just quote what I've quoted myself saying in the past, which is... Let me quote myself quoting. Is that a thing? I don't know, the thing. I'll make it a thing.
Quote inception.
Yes, quote inception. I love that.
Make a meta quote here.
I love it. So meta. We are not a unicorn. We're not a unicorn because I firmly believe that a unicorn is some mythical creature with zero staying power. Unicorns don't exist. They, my company, we're a roach. We are the company that survives nuclear winters. We're going to be around when everybody else is long gone and burned to the ground. We're still going to be crawling the earth.
Yeah, whether it's an AI winter or a VR winter or
Doesn't
whatever.
matter.
Okay.
Does not matter.
I like that analogy.
We are not a unicorn. We're a roach.
Yeah, don't build a unicorn, build a roach.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not galloping, you're crawling.
Oh, my God. You don't know how right you are, sister.
Slow but steady wins the race.
That's right.
Well, anyone else have anything to say before I cut us all off?
No. It's all good.
Awesome. Good. Thank you for having me.
This has been
fun.
This has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah.
Honestly, Matt, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Reality Quest with Matt Chacon.
If you would like to follow Matt, which wouldn't we all, because then you can watch him doing push-ups in his VR headset, you can find him on Twitter at the VR CEO. And that he is. Am I right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Or you can find their company, Doghead Simulations, at dogheadsimulations.com.
It's as easy as that, Jay.
Yeah. Also,
more about us.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And back to us. You can subscribe to us on Patreon if you love what we're doing and you want to buy us sandwiches, coffee, cortados for me. What is your drink of choice at a cafe, Kelly?
Ooh. Well, at Starbucks, it's a misto.
Misto.
Like a cafe au lait, basically.
Okay.
So yeah,
cafe au lait.
In case anyone's interested.
Yeah, coffee with milk.
But wait, they need to first, if you want to follow us, know what's going on, what platforms we're on, and find that Patreon account, we are at realityquestpodcast.com. Nice. And you can also email us there and let us know your thoughts, what you think, and all that stuff. Just say hi.
Yeah. You can also find us on social media now at reality_quest on Twitter and at Reality Quest Podcast on Instagram. VIG.
Well, big gulps.
So thanks for listening to
See you later.
this episode.